land. March on to glory, your bright banners waving high. See how the world longs the manner of your birth. Pledge to excel through love and unity, pressing onward, march together to a common loftier goal. Steady sunward, go the weather, hide the wide and treasure show. Lift up your head to the rising sun, a humble land, till the road you've tried lead unto your God. March on,
Welcome. We're also going to do the Black American Anthem because, as you're going to find out, if you don't already know, Bahamians are African Americans, and African Americans are also Bahamians. And since we're talking about these two people in unison, it will only be right to show the same love and respect to our brothers and sisters. So I'm going to play the blickety black national anthem.
lift every voice and sing, till earth and heaven ring with the harmony of liberty. Let our rejoicing rise high as the lift beside. Let it resound loud as the roar we see. Sing a song full of the faith that the dark past has taught us. Sing a song full of the hope that the present has brought us. Please sing I sing song on your day. Be gone. Let us march on till victory. Let us march on till victory is won.
Welcome, welcome, welcome all. Welcome back. Oh, my fault. My bad. Welcome, everybody. Welcome again. Thank you all for joining me again. Despite of my faux pas yesterday. Um, Happy Independence Day to the Bahamas. Happy Independence Day to all the Bahamians. Um, I'm pretty sure. Hopefully, you guys got a day off. Hope you're enjoying the festivities, the festival, the parade, the carnival. Um, happy again, happy Independence Day, right? I chose to do it today because it's Independence Day. So for those who may not be able to join us right now live, I encourage Bahamians and other people as well to go do it. So, but I was told to do it today, and I'm gonna do it today. For those of you who may know, the had little difficulty, so I, it's gonna be. I'm taking you guys back to the '90s, so I had to record it via a camera. I try to do my best, right? So it's not gonna be like the spitting image of me actually getting it, especially with the limited time that I have. I feel I did a good job. The audio is fine. The the picture is fine, and we'll be able to get it in. And just like last time, what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna comment through it, and it's gonna be a part two. So this is the first half of the documentary. So I'm gonna play the whole documentary, gonna comment through it, and at the end, for those who want to come in, they can come in, and we just pretty much talk about it. So anything you see during the video, just take notes on whatever if you do want to come in or add anything to the history or to what you have seen, right? One is saying they're drinking, but they'll watch the playback. Cool, cool, cool. No problem. I really want to lay this history out, and thank you, Juana and Black Beauty, for commenting in the comment section, right? Yeah, keep it going. And I really appreciate anybody who could give context through the for through this history. I may or may not ask you guys to comment, saying while it's playing. But if I do, try to keep it brief because I kind of want to get through it, but I don't know yet. I'll play it by ear. So without further ado, let me just let's start this off. So I'm gonna start playing it. Oh, before I do, right, just so I can play it safe. Like I said, this way it's not so bad, and I don't have to worry about getting like a strike. So to me, it's kind of like a bittersweet type of thing, if you ask me. But for just so I could come on now, just to be on the safe side, I'm just gonna call fair use. Fair use. This is for educational purposes and learning purposes, so on and so forth. I am calling fair use. Right? So now that I have that business out of the way of calling fair use, yeah, let's get it. Now, guys, let me know. This is how it's gonna look like throughout the video of me playing it. Be brutally honest. Let me know how you feel about it so far. I try to do the best that I can with with the time that I had. So let me know. Don't worry, I'm not gonna catch hurt feelings over it. Just be honest if you care to comment on how it looks.
And what you don't know about Miami is that back in the 1640s, black pirates came here. Most of them came from the Bahamas. Andros Island was a hotbed for pirates. About a third of the crew members of pirate ships were black. In fact, piracy was the first equal opportunity for employment that blacks had in the New World. And many brothers took advantage of that. If you go to Disney World and you go through the Pirates of the Caribbean exhibit, you don't see blacks among the pirates, but they were there. They had a very, very stable presence in the industry. They were free. They shared equally in the spoils that the ships took. And in fact, some of them emerged as captains of their own ships. The most noted pirate, black pirate that you know of, who came to South Florida was Black Caesar. He operated around Biscayne Bay back in the 1640s. In fact, there is a place on the map today in the Florida Keys shown as Caesar's Creek. That was one of his headquarters in the South Florida area. A notorious pirate who eventually was pressed by the British. There was no U.S. government at that time. The U.S. didn't exist at that time. Pressed by the British government, went around to the west coast of Florida, hooked up with Blackbeard, and the two of them were notorious during their reign of piracy until finally the British caught them both and they were executed.
Well, Black Caesar would be, he's either mythological or real or somewhere in between that, hanging out there on South Biscayne Bay. There's Black Caesar's Creek. He might have been a fugitive slave from Virginia.
There were two of them, but the main one was the one who operated back in the 1640s. The one that came after, about 100 years later, was just a copycat of no consequence. Well, the next.
Now, I'm not going to show the video last time going into Black Caesar. For those who don't know, if you want a little bit more context on the first video that I did yesterday, they go a little bit more in depth about who Black Caesar might have been. So just as if you want more information, you can always go there, because we already did that. So I don't, I want us to have a lot of time to go through everything. So this is chapter 2, where they're talking about the Bahamians.
Next movement of blacks into what became Miami would have been Bahamians, who came in just during the fishing season, during the turtling season, because tens of thousands of turtles would haul up on these beaches, lay their eggs, and these Bahamians would come over, harvest the eggs, slaughter some of the turtles, take them back to Nassau, and make their living that way. So that was going on many, many years before the first English-speaking white people ever came to South Florida. And those Bahamian fishermen, who would be there sometimes for weeks, if not months at the time, would encounter black escaped slaves coming down mainly from Georgia. And these people were trying to make it.
Again, like I said yesterday, the Bahamians that were already there, right? We're talking about free people. They're already there, right? And you'll see Black Americans from Georgia coming into Florida, right? And again, what do we do? We welcome them, right? Because we know what their situation was, right? So this is the gentleman I was talking about yesterday. These are all historians. These are not ex pimps trying to and grifters or anything like that. Not light skinned mulatto gay people talking nonsense. These are people that went to school, did the study. They're on the actual ground, doing the groundwork, looking at the artifacts, looking at historical records, and they're reciting this history.
To the Bahamas to freedom. So the first ferrying of black escaped slaves we know of from Georgia primarily to the Bahamas to freedom happened with these Bahamian fishermen encountering these people
from Bahamas, right? They escaped into Florida, right? So again, you have, like I said yesterday, you have anything south of Florida. For those you may or may not know geography, that good. Let me just go back real good so you can see Savannah, and Savannah is a city in Georgia. right? So anything starting from like Tallahassee, right, or St. Augustine or whatever, that's just considered free land, right? That's just considered free land because remember, Florida was not a state yet. Florida didn't become a state until like 1845. There were no English people around or anything like that. So they knew the further south they go, the more free they're going to be, right? The more free you're going to be. Even though FBA says that they don't run, they don't fled, right? But you can see right here, these are the patterns that they, you know. So just to give you guys some context to what the man is saying.
Bahamas, the freedom happened with these Bahamian fishermen encountering these people right here on these shores.
Well, the Bahamas was so very close to South Florida, and particularly during the brief British period in the late 1700s, a lot of the Bahamians came to Florida. A lot of them were wreckers because of the Great Florida Reef. There were no lighthouses at the time, and the first community really was Key West. And that was like the wrecking capital of the world. And many of them ended up settling in the Florida Keys, and some even in the.
Look at the picture behind you. If you guys know the picture behind you, so if you read her title, you know she's a historian. She's at she's a historian, so she's at the museum there. So look at that picture at the back. That's a picture of the first Black people that settled the Bahamas. I'm gonna show you a bigger picture of that later. But those are Bahamians. Those are Bahamian Black people in Florida settling there. There's no United States government. There's nothing. It's like pretty much wilderness there, uncharted territory. These Bahamians blazed a trail all on their own, and they cultivated that land on their own.
In the Miami area.
And these Bahamians coming in from the Bahamas into Key West began migrating up the Florida Keys, primarily picking pineapples, which was a major crop during that time. That brought many Bahamians here. Many of them stayed, so that by the time Coconut Grove emerged in the 1880s, there was a steady flow of Bahamians already in the Florida Keys and coming in from Key West. As these Bahamians and African Americans, Black settlers who were coming down from Georgia, encountered each other in Coconut Grove, in Overtown, there was always a little bit of friction because Bahamians had kind of an attitude. They would tell you quickly, we're not ex-slaves. We are subject to the British Crown. And expected white people to treat them that way as well. So a lot of the early friction in Miami was between African Americans and Bahamians, but particularly between white people and Bahamians, because Bahamians simply behaved differently. They came from a different culture, and they were not as passive or as accepting of some of the discrimination that was so apparent when they came into Florida.
Yeah.
So this is where we spoke about this yesterday on Buana and Kuku. We spoke about this about Bahamians, you know, being all uppity and things like that. But I like how he explained it because there's layers to this, right? There's a lot of layers to this because you had the Bahamians coming in, right, from the Keys, right, and you have ex-slaves from Georgia, and the midpoint they're meeting is in Coconut Grove, right? So he's saying, oh, there was some tension there that they have or whatever, right? Because, you know, they were coming from two different cultures, and, you know, he said the Bahamians felt they were uppity because they said, hey, look, I'm not a slave. I'm not a slave like you, yeah, we Black, but I'm not a slave like you or whatever, right? So there was a little bit of friction there, right? And we spoke about this. It has nothing with them being from Bahamas. It had to do with them just pretty much being. I put the link in the chat. So, Juan, if you want to come in, we can rehash it real quick. Or if Kuku's around, we go come in here and rehash it real quick. Because I think we need to get this point cleared. But at the end, finally, he said that it was mostly the Bahamians fighting against the whites, right? Because they acted different. The Bahamians didn't accept, and these two things tying together. The Bahamians didn't accept that their position that they were pushing on other American blacks. Like, okay, you're an ex-slave, right? So you need to pretty much get in your place as an ex-slave. Whereas the Bahamian is like, look, I haven't been a slave for several generations. Kick rocks, So I don't, and like I said, so with that fighting spirit. Not saying Black Americans have a fighting spirit. I'm not saying that, but you have people that are a couple generations removed from slavery versus people who are still in the generation of slavery. So yeah, what's up, Warner?
What's up, Kofi? I don't want to interfere with the presentation, so I'm writing the stuff down. So I mean, I'll come back to it when we have the discussion, Kofi.
All right, okay, yeah. Well, like I said, in and out because I know.
Yeah, no sweat. Yeah, because I don't want it to run too long. Yeah.
You took a little bit of umbrage with yesterday saying why we gotta be snotty, like.
Yeah. It was funny because I know the people think some people in the Caribbean have attitudes, but I think that, as you were saying before, history, you gotta understand context. You gotta understand how blacks in the Caribbean probably were conditioned, and I think that that's where the divide may have come from, especially with whites. We had a level of freedom a little bit longer than the population in the United States. So when we came there, I think that whites was expecting us to be hat in hand, looking at the ground, all apologetic for no reason and things of that nature. And we was like, well, we free men. What the hell are you talking about?
Exactly.
Walking the side of the road, fuck F you. So I think that that's where the attitudes, whites get concerned, like, who is this uppity Negro? So I think that that's where the quote unquote attitudes were to come in. But I'll leave it there and let you continue for now.
I totally agree, but as a Bahamian, I just needed you to co-sign that. That's all. As a Bahamian, I just needed you to co-sign that, and that's pretty much the conclusion, that I came to. Preached out to Brother Bakari that's here, right? But that's pretty much the conclusion I came to. You have two people coming with two different histories, but at the end of the day, the threat were the black people that did not accept the position that white people was pushing on black people. So at the end of the day, that was a fight. That was always a fight, and that'll be continued to be the unified fight that Bahamians and African Americans had to face, right? So let me continue.
The Bahamas abolished slavery in the 1830s. And so the black Bahamians were long, by the time they got here, had long not been slaves. And they were educated because the English, one of the things the English tended to do everywhere, I think, as a colonial power, they educated people better than most. There was some snobbery. And I think it still exists. I find it today in talking to different people that the Bahamians just have a very, like the old Americans, the DAR types or something. They were here first, and they feel like they've made a tremendous contribution, and they have.
The Bahamians built Vizcaya. They provided the labor force for Vizcaya. They built many of the early buildings in Miami. The Bahamians built the Dade County Courthouse. Primarily Bahamians and other blacks.
Look how beautiful
the workforce for Vizcaya.
That's the sky. Look how beautiful that is. That's like a marina, right? That is gorgeous. That is beautiful.
Many of the early buildings in Miami. The Bahamians built the Dade County Courthouse. Primarily Bahamians and other blacks too, but they were a part of the workforce all along.
African Americans and Bahamians both, because you got the railroad coming in with Flagler, right? And it's early African Americans coming down to help build the railroad like they did with the rest of the country, right? And they're coming in, and there's a tourism industry here. There's an agricultural labor. See, there's a need for domestic labor. And so they're coming in, they're working for white families in the homes. They're also building the streets, the buildings, and huge estates like Vizcaya, and they're also working the land.
But they were particularly important in terms of teaching whites how to use coral rock to construct buildings. And we still have some homes, some structures today that reflect this early influence on architecture by the Bahamians.
So if any of you Buana or anyone, like, I find that this artisan, this work, this masonry work, to be very impressive. They just took coral and they just made homes out of it, right? I'm wondering. Yeah, did you have something like that in the
Yeah,
Bahamas?
yeah. These are what we would consider to be old style, old fashioned homes. Usually, you would find houses like this in a lot of the family islands. I think that in Nassau they had houses like this, but because of um, uh, construction laws, because of not hurricane, but because of construction laws that began to exist in the Bahamas, I think that they went away from using this kind of material. But
Okay.
old style, old fashioned homes in the Bahamas, you'll find many of these kinds of style houses, maybe in some of the family islands. They still exist, but not right now, because currently the materials have changed based on the so-called environment laws and different kinds of scenarios what's going on, construction laws what's going on in the Bahamas right now. But they used to build houses just like this. This is not unique to me, what I've seen.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, as unique as it is, I'm pretty sure if you have some people that knows anything about architecture and the history of architecture and buildings, they'll pay a pretty penny for that, just because. Like if you guys watch HDTV, you see some people, some white people, they're like, "Oh, I like it. I love the character," and I'm like, it's like falling apart, but but just because there's a lot of historic significance to it, that will bring it up in value. So yeah, thanks for that. Thanks for letting me know about that, because I find this to be beautiful.
Reflect this early influence on architecture by the Bahamians.
But if you've ever tried to dig in our wonderful soil, quote soil, and they think that all they had was a grub hoe, and to plant in Coral Gables, which was all pineland, they had to grub up the palmettos and grub up the rock, and that's why they built a lot of buildings out of coral rock, as they call it.
In the early 1800s, blacks began coming down from Georgia and the other slave states into Florida to join up with the Seminole Indians, who were themselves trying to escape being removed from Florida to the out-of-the-way white settlement of the South. And these blacks, who were not blood related to the Seminoles, they joined them in terms of a mutual survival strategy related to the Seminoles. They joined them in terms of a who were not blood related to the Seminoles. Who were not blood related to the Seminoles. They were not blood related to the Seminoles. They joined them in terms of a mutual survival.
I had to keep playing that back. There are not blood related to the Seminoles. There are not blood related to the Seminoles. Regardless of what Tariq Nasheed says, regardless of what Dane Calloway says, regardless of what any self-hating black person or low information black person don't know anything enough about his own history, they always want to say that they're Native American. Once again, this is a historian that lives in Florida, that's on the ground, it's a part of the historical society, that knows what he's talking about.
Kofi, did you get his name?
Is something done?
Yes, I think it's Dr. Michael Dunn. He used to teach at the University of, I can't remember, man, University of Florida. But the people probably would want to know what his name is, because he is a very important person as far as South Floridian history.
Hold on, I think I'm gonna get his name.
And what you don't know about Miami?
Yeah, Dr. Marvin Dunn. Dr. Marvin Dunn, historian and author. That's who this man is. And the lady, again, her name is Anna.
To the Bahamas, the freedom happened with these Bahamian fishermen encountering these people right here on these shores.
Well, the Bahamas was so very close to South Florida, and particularly during the British period.
So this is her name. She's a historian and author as well. Right. So again, these are historians, and these are historians, right? Thank you for reminding me to to show that. Okay, so let's get back.
Kofi. Yeah. I'm being asked. Can you move myself and yourself off of the bottom, because they can't see the the names, when you put them on, they can't see the names to review it. So I don't know if you could put us to the side so they can see the whole picture. It's right. Good. All right.
All right. Yeah, I did it this way. Not that way. I did it this way because it blows the picture up to be a lot bigger versus doing it this way. But if you guys prefer it this way, other than this way, no problem. I'll leave it this way. All right, cool. All right, so let me continue.
Seminoles basically fought with the Seminoles, were interpreters for the Seminoles, and in fact, there was some of the marriage between the Seminoles and these.
So these are actual black Seminoles. Again, I went through this yesterday. And I went to the what was the name of the Florida Memory? It's a site called Florida Memory. I'll go through it real quick for those who was not here yesterday. I'll go through it real quick. I won't, spend so much time on it, but just because I don't want anyone taking away any black people's birthrights, especially Bahamian birthrights to Florida, and African American birthright to cultivate in Florida. So real quick, this is the right here. It says Florida Memory, right? And I've been through this yesterday. So basically, what this is, they make distinctions of what the Seminoles look like, right? You have pictures here, right? And they tell you who the Seminoles were, this, that, and the other. You can check the site out. So FBA and ADOS, they do pictorial scholarship. They look at something and they think they know everything about it just by looking at it. So this is an Indian settlement, right? This is a Native American settlement, and right here it says Black Seminoles. So they're making a distinction between Seminoles and Black Seminoles, just like Professor Dunn did. Black Seminoles, and it's saying what he's saying. Slaves escaped from southern plantations, joined the Seminoles in Florida. The historians. To historians, they became known as Black Seminoles or Seminole Maroons. Like you have the Maroons in Jamaica, right? They're Maroons, right? And these are a picture of the Black Seminoles. Here's a person. He's an interpreter. This is his name, right? Another one, John Horse, right? He's also an interpreter, and he's a war leader, right? These are Black Seminoles, right? And you got the first Seminole War. You got the bastard and Andrew Jackson. Then you have Oscala, a Seminole warrior and leader, right? He's an actual Seminole. Obviously, he doesn't look like this. He doesn't look like a Black Seminole because he's not a Black Seminole. They call him a regular Seminole and leader. Here's another one. In this case, you Dane Calloway, FBA, ADOS types say, well, that's a picture of the white man. Because now we don't believe the white man, right? Okay, you do pictorial scholarship. Here's a picture of Billy Bowlegs, the Seminole warrior headman, 1852. This is a picture. He does not look like Isaac Hayes. He does not look like Barry White. He doesn't look like any Black American. He looks like a Native American, a Seminole, right? Just to lay down the groundwork, right? Here's another Chief Tallahassee, right? There's a picture of him, 1884, right? These are historical records, historical pictures and documents, right? Here's another Seminoles with Indian trader on Will Strahan, Fort Lauderdale, right? You can distinctly see who's a white man. Like Black women don't look like this. These are Seminole people, right? So that's all that I wanted to share right now, right? So we could get back to it. So we could debunk any lies that any FBA, ADOS, or any self-hating Black person saying that we were the Seminoles. No, you weren't the Seminoles. You were a part of it. You were a Maroon. They took you in. You had a common enemy, and you linked with your common enemy in order to beat them. That's all that it is. It's not that complicated, right? Before I go, Kate Ditso, real quick. Welcome.
Yo, what's up, Covey? Hello, Bawana. Just saying hello. I'll keep quiet
What's up,
until.
Ditso? ¿Qué tal?
Todo bien, pura vida, todo tranquilo. Egua. Ya me cambiaste casi. Hold on. Okay, back to English. So no, just hearing you, and I saw the last live yesterday about the same similar subject, and I love it. I love to be here to debunk those who call themselves Indians and who want to erase the reality of this continent.
Yes, Gus, and I'm glad to have you here as a native, as someone who has indigenous roots in Central America and the Caribbean.
Yeah,
And I'll never think the day and age you have black people culture vulturing when we have so much rich history. It's a part of our history too, but to say, well, no, we're the real ones, then they're displacing you, did so. It's like, what are you talking about?
you've
I've
seen
always
it
been.
first person. You've seen it in occasions where we've been together in different panels. You've seen how they when I show them I'm Latin American, they immediately reject my Americanness. They immediately reject my indigenous, my blackness, and pretty much is like you are not one of us. When in reality, I am part of that history.
Yeah, exactly.
But you've seen it. You've
Yes,
seen it.
firsthand.
Hmm.
Yeah, they don't understand. Like some people don't understand, and is that people was like, oh, you're not black. Like people that grew up around Hispanic people or anything like that. Oh, you're not black like us. I was like, what makes a so-called Hispanic or Latin person? One third African, one third Spaniard, one third Native American.
and
That's what.
even and
Yeah,
even
go ahead.
on that, we have to argue. Term Hispanic is erroneous. There is sufficient etymological and ontological and epistemological discussion there that shows that the term Hispanic or anybody who identifies with the aspect of Hispanic is erroneous. We're not Hispanics. The term we utilize modernly is Latin American, but there's a reason why we're using that term. But that term becomes an umbrella that then you have to understand that it has nuance to it, and then it goes to a more specific regional perspective. The Caribbeans, the Central
So it's kind
Americans,
of derogatory, like if in this day and age you call someone from China or Korea Oriental.
pretty much. It's the
Okay.
same sense of derogatory, dehumanizing term.
Okay, I'll try to do better because I did hear I do know of that, but I did not train myself to wean myself away from stop using the word Hispanic. But I will keep in mind to do that, and I thank you for that.
Hey,
So
that's what
yeah,
we're here for, my friend.
yeah. So let me keep playing it. So basically, these are black Seminoles. You can just pretty much see the phenotype, right? These are the Seminoles. Let them into their fold, right? The phenotype is totally different, right? So these are the black Seminoles.
These blacks who joined them.
Well, one of the main reasons for the so-called Seminole Wars, which are kind of forgotten wars in American history to many people, unless you're Floridian, was the fact that many of the slaves were fleeing into then Spanish Florida at first, and the United States wasn't very happy about that, and so they really started.
But again, not the dump. Not well. When I say FBA, I'm not talking about all Black Americans, obviously, because FBA is just a different section from Black Americans. But FBA always saying they never flee. All you hearing is them running into Florida, right? Running here, running there. They always say they stayed and fought, but obviously we know we didn't fought. I have to keep driving this home because they think that they're this warrior class, and they stood their ground. All of them stood their ground and they fought. And running or fleeing, according to them, is a sign of weakness. No, it's a sign of intelligence. You're getting your ass kicked, and the odds are against you. Common sense would tell you to run, right? And it's just a weird argument that they project on other people when they're I don't like to use the word guilty, but when they pretty much do the same thing. That's why I say FBA is a class of people that are very low information, uneducated, black people. That's why they all come together and they all agree to the same thing because they don't know of any other historical narrative. So they go along with the first narrative to make them feel good, right? So it's very odd.
Started fighting the Seminoles because they had provided sanctuary to a lot of the African slaves.
And it's very important to point out that the black Seminoles were not necessarily dependent upon the Seminoles. Sometimes the Seminoles were dependent upon the blacks. So it was a very symbiotic relationship in which both groups benefited.
And that's the thing and see, and this is what I try to tell them, like they can see it when it comes to them not wanting to be Native American. That's how it should be with Latinos, blacks in America, and blacks in the Caribbean. It's a symbiotic relationship, and that's what we have to work on. So them using these little things where we're not the same, what they did to Ditso, well, you're not the same as me, and this, that, and the other is like it's like it's just like this FBI shit. It's like are you working for the FBI? Because I never understood, and I use the analogy: if we're in a boxing match, and you have Latinos you have blacks as a thumb, and we're all fingers, right? And three of my fingers say, you know what? I'm not gonna be a part of the fist. How are we gonna win? How does this divisive talking rhetoric help us fight? But they don't think too far into the future. They okay, you do that, you're burning bridges. Fine. You got your reparations, you're unto yourself. So you're gonna be training with white people. Nah, F white people. So who else do you have? You don't have nobody else. You just burnt all your bridges. So they get mad when I say you just want reparations and you just to be comfortable up under white people. That's it. There's no talk of getting your own, doing for yourself, getting trade amongst yourself. No, you're not doing that. And at the same time, they'll say, "Oh, we're at the home of our enemy." So you don't want to go nowhere. You want to be up under white people to be comfortable. Real quick, so go ahead.
Yeah, just real quickly, I wanted to address one point and roll back real quickly because it's important how we address the terms in its sense. One issue that happens a lot when referring to populations of Latin America, those countries, those 33 nations that are near the border of the United States or towards the south of that border of current country that's called the United States, we have to address one thing. Those people, either from Mexico, 7 countries in Central America, several countries in Caribbean, 12 countries in South America, they are not Latinos. They are Latin Americans or America Latina. Why it's important to add the concept of America? Because if you're only addressing the concept of Latinos from the origin of Spanish, French, Portuguese, you have a problem. You have to add the Romanians into that. And the Romanians is a country in Europe, to the east
and
of
we
Europe.
talking mostly about language because Latin is a language, and from Latin you get the so-called Romance languages. You get your French, you get Spanish, and Portuguese. But
So
when we say in America, when we say Latin, we do know we're not speaking about the English or the French. We know we're mostly speaking about the Spanish and the Portuguese.
Yeah, and precisely that's the point. Sorry to roll back on very basic points. There is a clear problem in English on categorization of ethnical as well as national, and they conflate in the United States, especially from the Census Bureau. We've seen it for the past almost 100 years or more, where the conflation of ethnical denominators as well as national identifiers are systematically confused with race. And for example, we see it with the term Hispanics. For many in the United States, the term Hispanic is equal to the term Black or African American, as if Hispanics are a particular race, when that is evidently not so, because you would have to take into account that the term Hispanic or the term Latin American, when referring to different populations, have to do with their shared. For example, if we talk about Mexicans or Central Americans, there is an ethnical sharing of common elements of culture, as well as language, as well as practices, etc. So that confabulation between a concept of race and a concept of ethnical background or heritage creates those oversimplifications of categorization in the United States, and then fucks everything up, and and then feeds into this whole movement of people saying, I'm the indigenous, I'm not black, I'm Indian type of bullshit. So if we attack from the basis of those terms and then expand, we're more able to debunk and decategorize those prejudices that are.
So if anything, if you want to go more into depth, put a pin in that, and during the discussion you could bring that back up. But that is true. We kind of have to break down these terms and terminologies and words that we use to describe people, and when it really doesn't really describe who or what they are. So thank you for that.
Welcome.
Again, so chapter 4, the Great Southern Migration, right? It's okay for them to migrate, but it's not okay for us to migrate. And the argument usually is, well, we're already within our country. Well, in this aspect, no, because you're running away and you're going to Florida, which is no longer a state. Remember, Florida became a state in 1845. It was not a U.S. territory at all. Even if you're not talking about Florida, right? I mean, they went to Florida, went to the Bahamas and other islands and things like that. But even if you're talking about the migration going to the west, right, to Texas, all out west before whatever Lewis and Clark trailblazed. It was no longer U.S. territory. You had black people that went there. You had the Underground Railroad went all the way to Canada. You have so-called FBAs all the way in Canada. So this notion of FBA not running away or fleeing or whatever is a total misnomer and unhistoric.
I think that one of the unique things about Miami is that if you look at African American history, there's this big period of time that they call the Great Northern Migration, which happened after Reconstruction in the South. So after the Civil War, Reconstruction was an attempt to rehabilitate the South and make it more friendly towards blacks, make it more friendly in general towards northern sort of ideals of democracy and things like that. It didn't work. It crashed, right? So you saw a lot of black people leaving the South. They went to New York, they went to Chicago, they went to major cities. They left all these agriculture.
So let me share one thing first, because I'm trying to keep everything on a particular timeline. Like in my head, when I do history, I like to do things within the particular time of when it happened and when it occurred. So I want to share. Welcome, Kuku. Welcome, Bakari. You guys want to say something? 2 minutes, if you want to say something. Kuku, go ahead.
Yeah, no, I just want to say peace to everyone. Thanks for doing this again. I want to say Happy Independence Day to all Bahamians, stateside and back at home. Happy Independence Day to you, Buana. Yeah, I just want to say thanks for doing this again. I look forward to this.
Oh, you too, brother. You too.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
How?
How, Chief running Mississippi.
I just wanted to come up here and be a spokesperson for the Foundation of Billy Apes. You are trying to take away everything that we have done and trying to give it to the That's the only reason I came up here. I'm gonna keep listening offline to see if I can get y'all to laugh. But happy Independence Day to my Bahamian brothers and sisters all around the world.
Yes. One love, brother Bakari. One love, brother. One love.
I'm gonna listen offline though, because I'm busy. I'm gonna listen offline. Peace. Thanks,
No
Kobe.
problem. Thanks for dropping by, man. Really appreciate it. Really appreciate it. So, what we getting into right now? So, yeah, let me do this first. So right here, this is Vizcaya, pretty much what they were talking about, what they built, that building. So right here is a little history, like a 2-minute video.
In the first issue of History Miami's journal, Tequesta, George Merritt, the developer of Coral Gables, made the following observations in an article titled Pre-Flagler Influences on the Lower Florida East Coast. And I quote, practically the only available workers are the Bahamian Negro spelled with the small n. He said they brought inspiration to many of the first English, French, Northern, and Southern planters, and who were at first skeptical of the coral rocky country. Merritt continued, Bahamian Negroes brought their own commonly used trees, vegetables, and fruits. They had skill in masonry building with native coral limestone, walls, roads, and other uses of the land and of the sea, while providing the labor for the peacock inn, the barnacle, the piscaya, the deering escape, etc. And so I'll end by saying that the impact of the work that the Black Bahamians did is still seen. The developer of Coral Gables thought it important enough to record this. This is firsthand information for him to say that the impact and inspiration helped to make the area is significant.
Boom! FBA now stands for Foundational Bahamian Americans. Foundational Bahamian Americans. Wow, y'all, y'all really did a good job building Miami. Like, come on, I love I love this type of history, man. I love this type of history. It's just beautiful. So let me show you.
Kofi,
yeah, go ahead.
Real quick. I was trying to say this in the chat yesterday when I forget what the person's screen name was in the chat yesterday. Who
Black King person?
Black King, yeah, Black King. I was trying to tell Black King, who seemed to be an FBA type. The funny thing about Tariq Nasheed, I try not to mention his name too much, but the funny thing about him is that there was a time when he was quote unquote Pan-African. He was running a Pan-African grift, and he told his followers, I remember seeing the clip, he told his followers on one of his shows that, Black folks from the Bahamas is who built Miami. So it's understood that there were other people who made contributions in the United States. This notion that no one else did nothing and all that, it's so silly, and it's such a recent thing that I can't believe so many people kind of follow it. But that's all I wanted to say.
Yeah, no, you're totally right. Because again, the whole thing, being a Pan-African is a very long, hard job, and it's a poor road. You know what I'm saying? Because you have to give more than you get, and you may not reap the rewards of your efforts here and now. Tariq realizing that, knowing like, nah, I gotta switch gears. I got no job. I got nothing going on for me. I need to do the grift. So what you do, you just pray. He's like the snake oil salesman of information and history. That's who he is to me. He's a snake oil salesman, right? He's the okie doke when it comes to history. And again, in the age of information, if you're not taught right information or proper information, you have nothing. You have no filtration system or anything to combat garbage information or trash information. So you're like, wow, this is the first time I'm hearing this. I guess this person is credible. All good scam artists, salesmen, and liars, there's always a little bit of truth in what they're doing. So you can't decipher what's truth and what's a lie. And you get a lot of uneducated, unlearned, low information people, and they just dive into it and they fight you tooth and nail, even though they can't defend it scholastically. and it's sad, but this is why we have to do shows like this. What's up, Naps? What's up, man? Thanks for coming through. What's up? What you got to say so far?
Hey, could you hear me okay?
Yeah, I can hear you.
It is a bit late. I'm gonna be short, but 3 things happened over the past 2 days that kind of ties in, I guess, with the with this FBA. Happy Bahamian Day, by the way. First thing that happened yesterday, I listened to this short. It's the guy GSH something. I forgot the name of his platform, but you know who he is. GSH. He's the guy that's on the debates and stuff.
Okay.
GSH. But anyway, I guess those guys, that dude FBA something, who you debate and what have you, they were having a little discussion. Do you know what this man said? This man said that Black people didn't have a voice for Black people since Reconstruction. And he said that that's why I'm glad Tariq is here as, our own Tucker Carlson. And
what?
I'm like, dude, here's what I'll do. Give me a sec. I'll put the link in the private. You can play it yourself. The FBA dude. He said, just think of when Reconstruction was over, right? And he said, we haven't had a leader speak for us since Reconstruction. And he mentioned Tariq Nasheed.
Wow. So he's saying for almost 200 years.
Hold on. Let me get it. Hold on. If I get cut off, I'll come back. Hold on a second. 1 second.
But that goes to Kuku's point that these people don't know anything.
Yeah. Let me get. Okay, here it is. I got the link. My God. I mean, here it is. I'm putting it in the private chat, and you can play the shit for yourself. And it's interesting that he said that yesterday for this reason. Today, like a couple of weeks ago, obviously everyone knows about, the Kendrick Lamar Drake, beef basically. Well, it's not even a beef. I mean, that shit became a hammer versus a nail after a while. But Vlad had put his input on it. And remember, they started dragging Vlad. And for a while, people started saying, oh, he's a culture vulture. We got to avoid him. One of those people in particular was a man was your boy Tariq Nasheed. Well, Tariq, if you check my my community post, went over, and he's gonna go over to Vlad's platform and have an interview after talking all that shit. Now, who knows with this dude? Maybe Vlad promises send some money to keep that hidden hookah lounge afloat. All right, he's still trying to push the hip hop movie that bombed, but like this dude, if this is the guy that you're getting behind to get you towards reparations, this dude right here, when it's obvious that first of all, there's no money in any sort of revolution. No one does this, no one gets into any sort of revolution, or there's no money in this really. So but he's going over and having an interview on Vlad's platform, not Vlad come on his platform and give, come and give some apologies, what have you. He's going on his platform and giving him all the hits and views. And you're saying that this guy is not a buck dancing coon?
I mean, I think he's doing that basically because he's probably telling Vlad, hey, you gotta give me a little something for come on, you know what I'm saying? And Tariq would travel, to get a little bag. Listen, I think that's what it is.
But wait a minute, how are you like what bag? You'll get a bag if you have Vlad on your platform. And they're gonna be basically playing footsies with each other. He's not gonna make a puppet. He's not gonna make a cartoon or nothing. It just shows you, man, that these dudes right here, man. But that FBA, I forgot his name. That dude is ignorant as hell. Holy shit. This isn't the first time that, and what grabs me about this is that it's not like he was trolling. They were having a regular
discussion.
conversation, and he says that. Like, I said, oh
and nobody checked them on that.
It's they were having a regular, if you're trolling, it's one thing. He was having a regular discussion, and that comes out of your mouth? Like, how deep in the rabbit hole is this cat? Man.
If I may, I've was fascinating listening to you in that sense, because the three problems I see with Tariq is, number one, if we're talking about descendancy of slavery in the Western Hemisphere, specifically of the regions that span from all the way to Argentina up to Canada and the Caribbean, then we would have to agree that the majority of slaves were not deposited in what is modern day United States, but in what is modern day Latin America, including the Caribbean. And that first basis breaks Tariq's arguments in 10 million pieces.
Yeah.
Because if we accept the factual historical essence that the majority of slaves were deposited in areas outside of the United States, then the concept of foundational Black Americans throughout the process of independences in the last 248 years here in the Western Hemisphere belongs to everyone, not just exclusively to what happened
but
in
let
the
me
United States.
let me interject real quick this, so then I gotta keep it playing. But their argument to that more to them solidifies their original Native American claim, because their thing is saying only a couple 100,000 came to the United States and all the majority went to the Caribbean, which sounds stupid, but they're saying there should be naturally be more slaves, more people of African descent. I heard him say this: there should be more people of African descent in the Caribbean than there would be in America. So, in their weird way, that makes the homogeny of what an African American is for the people there is only people there will just be Native American and Europeans. We ain't African, so that's what they're trying to say more to their point. So right here you see an article here. It says South Florida is tied to the Bahamas. University of, and if you was looking at the documentaries, you keep seeing this picture, especially with the lady who was talking. You keep seeing this picture here, and it's what this picture here. So it's University of Miami, Auto G Richard Library House, various archives that tell the story of how South Florida's history has deep connections to the Bahamas. Right. So portraits of Bahamian migrants standing in front of the home of American yacht designer and early resident of Coconut Grove, Ralph Monroe. Right, so I basically just want to show you guys that. And so yeah, we saw the video there. I don't care right now. FBA stands for Foundational Bahamian Americans. I don't care what y'all say. that's who they are right now. So let me go back and keep playing the rest of
and another thing too.
Yeah,
I don't know if you caught the Breakfast Club interview with Umar Johnson.
I saw some of it. But I don't want to go off on Umar right now. At the end, we can hit Umar.
But here he did say something. And I'm no fan of his, and most of that Breakfast Club interview, I'll probably go over it on my channel. But he said the people who follow Trump are Now, the guy who I'm referring to, he's a big Umar fan. So, be very interesting to see his response, because he will go over it. But yeah, it just shows you again the contradiction, the weirdness of that dude's rhetoric. But go on. Is that on? I can't hear anything.
Kofi dropped off. I mean, his voice dropped out. I don't know if he dropped off. Yeah, it looks like Kofi dropped off.
Kofi dropped off. All right,
Wanda, how was celebrations today?
I'm still celebrating. It's raining heavy out here right now, very heavy. You know, but the people still there inside. You know what it is. They can celebrate no matter if it's raining or if it ain't raining. But I want to remind the brothers that ignorance is more pervasive than truth. So despite the fact that there is evidence already in terms of what has happened in history, unfortunately, within our community, ignorance is more pervasive. That's why our clips, despite the fact that it has proper evidence, despite the fact that it's properly backed by professionals, actual historians who actually went to school and studied history, you would see Tariq Nasheed has much more.
My bad,
views
yo.
than
My
we
stream
do.
yard was acting up.
Okay, no sweat. Go ahead, brother.
No, go ahead. Continue the conversation.
No, but you would see him having much more views than we do because ignorance is much more pervasive than the truth. And let me also say this: slavery and mistreatment is much more pervasive than freedom or people who want to be free. This is the reason why when people talk about runaways or people who are trying to escape the plantation, they didn't really make up the largest numbers of people. They really actually make up the few. The reality is most people stayed on the plantation for different kinds of reasons. Not only for the fact that they had food there, but they didn't have to go forage for. They had shelter there because they had houses built for them. They had clothes prepared for them. More people actually stayed on the plantation than there were slaves who actually were trying to escape. So when we have these kinds of conversations, Pan-Africanism and freedom and liberation, these kinds of conversations, most people don't really actually want to actually live this kind of experience because we don't usually make up the large numbers. We are the so-called vanguard of the right-thinking human beings who actually want to be free and want to be responsible for their own lives. But the reality is we never make up the largest numbers of people. The largest numbers of people are steeped in ignorance and they are comfortable on that plantation. So I just want to remind our people of that from time to time. But go ahead, Kofi.
No, that's I don't know how you got into that, but that diatribe, but that is very right. It's the few. You know what I'm saying? It's the few.
Yeah, like I was saying before you got cut off, I know you're going to probably go into a little bit of that, but when you follow Trump, they have a slave master syndrome. So, be interesting because your boy loves Umar. So, it'll be interesting to see the response.
Yeah, I did saw that on your community page. He was saying, because you say to defend Puffy and everything, but yeah, he says black dude. He pretty much said what Wanda said, that it's a white savior mentality. It doesn't matter if you're red like a Republican, blue like a Democrat, or whatever. It's a savior mentality that we have. And what there's a saying that says you have two slaves on a plantation. The fence is broken. One uses it to escape, the other one fixes it. You know what I'm saying? So,
and also,
yeah.
too, regarding, I know that Tariq is always on the menu, but I think it's time Yvette started getting that more smoke, man. Because
I'm gonna cook her. This is part one. I'm gonna cook her. Like, I don't know if you saw the thing with Lamont Hill. And even when I was on this other podcast that's on right now called the To Be Fair Show, you got some FBA dude saying agreeing with the Yvette Carnell saying, "Oh no, when white supremacy sees Black Americans and Black Africans as different." She said that on Mark Lamont Hill, and Mark Lamont Hill did not push back. So yeah, Yvette's getting it. If there was no Yvette Carnell, there would be no FBA Tariq Nasheed. We know that. Tariq Nasheed is Yvette Yvette Carnell's Frankenstein.
Yeah.
Right.
See, here's the thing. She really, for her to go after Pan-Africanism as if that is stopping you from getting reparations. What Pan-Africanists in worth their salt will be anti-reparations. Like,
exactly.
What is she doing? And think about this. Let's say that ever comes, that reparations does come, which I don't think it will, but let's say it does. And you hear people say, well, if you want to use your reparations to go and, get a bunch of cars and ball out or whatever, you can do that. Okay. What if you want to get your reparations and you want to move out of Africa? Doesn't that free up the market for you as a Black American to have more jobs and more? There'll be less people to cater to. Like, I don't. And she uses Umar, who doesn't. He's not. I mean, he talks a lot of rhetoric. That dude is not a practicing Pan-Africanist, but she has come up. The difference with ADOS, they're a lot smarter. They're more intelligent. The FBA people are mental midgets. So you think because they're smarter, they're not grifting and they're not scamming as well. Nah, after the way she's going after Pan-Africanism, she's a scammer.
Yeah, but their rhetoric, and after this, I'm gonna continue on video. Their rhetoric betrays them because remember, you're trying to get. You don't like HR 40 is trash. They're studying it for reparations. It's an insult to study slavery. We know what slavery is. Slavery is American history, right? You had to do a study to do a crime bill for Asians. You had to do a crime bill for Japanese in concentration camps. You had to do a study for Native Americans to get money, but for Black people, you got to do a study. So I get that. That's insulting, right? But at the same time, it's like your rhetoric towards other people. No one's going to back anybody that's full of xenophobic hate and say, this is the person who I'm backing. You just sabotage yourself. So this will really 10 seconds. I gotta play this.
Yeah, I know we had to play this. Real quickly, I did share something. I want to show it real quickly, 10 seconds, and I'm out in regards of this conversation of reparations. This happened last year in the annual reunion of the Community of Latin American States and Caribbean States, the CELAC. We came out saying to Europe, hey, listen, remember what we've been saying for the past 200 years, that you owe us reparations for slavery? We're just going to bring it up again. New century, new ideas, we're still at it. So the whole conversation in regards of reparations has been ongoing for 200 years, and the United States is not alone in that conversation. The thing with Tariq is that he fights for reparations with his right hand while he is discriminatory against all other Black Americans that reside outside of the United States, as if the experiences and the situation and realities are not similar or have not undergone various stages of problems in the last 200 years. And that there is the fall of Tariq as somebody who has that credibility to go forward in that discussion.
Totally agree. Thanks for sharing that. Thanks for sharing that. So let's so let me play the rest of this doc.
Take the South and make it more friendly towards Blacks, make it more friendly in general towards northern sort of ideals of democracy and things like that. It didn't work. It crashed, right? So you saw a lot of Black people leaving the South. They went to New York, they went to Chicago, they went to major cities. They left all these agricultural communities where they had been based in the South before. And so that period of scholarship, that period of history in African-American scholarship is called the Great Northern Migration. But what people don't often recognize is that there was a Great Southern Migration too. Miami was booming in the 1880s and the 1890s because of the fact that it had just been founded. So there were jobs here, the railroad had arrived, there was opportunity here. So you saw African Americans not just going to the north, going to New York, but they were also African Americans from Alabama and Georgia. They were coming.
Again, real quick, just to drive it home, she's basically saying there were opportunities. So they didn't stay in North Carolina or Georgia, racist Georgia or anything like that. It was like, hey, let's go over there because there's opportunity. Where FBA is allowed to flee when it's opportunity instead of fight, versus looking at people from Latin American countries and Caribbean countries, right, who have their own independence and no white man breathing down their neck, but they're talking to us that we need to subscribe or aspire to have their situation. No, you want to aspire to have our situation where at least the white man's not breathing down our neck. You know what I'm saying? Versus you have a Jim Crow laws. There was no such thing as Jim Crow laws. Fine, we're a commonwealth of the English crown, but again, we're able to come and go as we please. I always find this FBA argument very odd.
Down to Miami to find work.
Now, especially around the 1880s into the early 1890s, there were blacks, primarily Bahamians, who were now settled well in Coconut Grove, who worked on these waters. They were fishermen, they were crabbers, they were turtlers, they were tour guides, they were hunting guides. So as white people started coming into South Florida for tourism purposes, they were aided and supported often by blacks who knew these waters, who knew the best fishing spots, who knew the best hunting areas, and they made a living, many of them doing exactly that. All of the blacks were not maids and gardeners and agricultural workers. Many of them participated handily in the tourism trade. We're standing on Charles Avenue in front of the home of E.W.F. Sterling, the richest black man in Coconut Grove. Charles Avenue was the original avenue along which most of the homes for blacks were built. It used to be known as Evangelist Street because all of the churches were on this street. So this was the beginning community of Coconut Grove, for the black community that is, on this street. Mr. Sterling was probably the first black, really wealthy person in Miami-Dade County. He acquired a great deal of property. He owned land from Monroe County to Fort Pierce. And when he died, he left a very, very sizable estate. He was one of the people who could be relied upon to help young men when they got into trouble. He was the one who, when movies came out, would get in his horse and buggy and go up to the White Folks Hotel, the Royal Palm Hotel, get the movies, bring them back down to the Oddfellows Hall, which was the social center of Coconut Grove. And that's how black people got to enjoy movies. This is a very important street. It may be the most historically significant street in Miami-Dade County in terms of black history is concerned.
So before we get into the Great Freeze, there's another thing I want to share. So you can see the trials and tribulations that Black Americans had to go through, and Bahamians, which is also Black Americans at this point, they're interchangeable. The things they had to go through with white people, right? So when the white people came, right, and as always, seeing Black people living good, carefree, independent of doing what they need to be do, like any other people do in order to survive, they didn't like that. They didn't like that at all. Once again, jealousy sets in, and they want to do very horrible things. So right here, if you want to know what this is National Trust for Historic Preservation. So here you have a home. This is called Miami Shotgun Homes, built by the community, for the community. So I'll read it real quick so you have an idea what a shotgun home is. So Coconut Grove is one of the largest continuous communities in Miami and the first Black settlement in the city. It is also home to a number of shotgun homes, a style of wood frame vernacular home that reinforces the neighborhood's unique identity. Narrow, rectangular, one-story structures built by the same community of Bahamian immigrants who have lived in Coconut Grove since its inception over 140 years ago. Real quick, basically what a shotgun home is basically they made these homes, and then you have white people that are like squatters and saying, nah, nigga, you need to get up out of here. Why? because I'm white and you's a nigga. Here goes one shotgun. You on the porch with your shotgun? Like, nah, it's not going down like that. Kick rocks, right? So I basically want to say that where you have Black Americans and Bahamians, and to the FBA goons, the FBA morons, thinking that this history doesn't exist. We have Caribbean people, American blacks facing the same demon in order and fighting back in the same way. And Cuckoo, you also mentioned yesterday that they had the Klan chased out some Bahamians. I was reading about it. Again, I didn't have a lot of time to put something. When I do a part 2, maybe me and you could get together and do something about it on a part 2 or put something together. But I found that to be very interesting, in a horrific way. The reason why I'm shining light on this is because that, regardless of what Tariq Nasheed says or Yvette Carnell says or any of the FBA ADO's cult says, white supremacy sees us as the same. They didn't go like, oh, I'm not going to mess with the Bahamian people. Let me mess with the Black Americans that came from Mississippi, Georgia, and Alabama, and so on and so forth. That's retarded. That's how you know you're talking to mental midgets. So I just wanted to bring that article up when I was studying the history about shotgun homes. So you guys could
Kofi, I want to respond to that. It's interesting that you say that structure is what they call it, a shotgun home. Most Caribbean homes look like most old-fashioned, a lot of not like the coral homes we were talking about earlier, but most Caribbean homes look like that. I didn't know they call it a shotgun. Most of our grandparents, when you see the infrastructure, they look like those homes. So I didn't know the history of why they would call it a shotgun homes, because I used to hear that term when it referred to homes in Louisiana. They call a lot of Louisiana style homes shotgun homes. But now that you mention the history of it, the fact that someone was sitting on the porch and say, "I wish you would come and try to take our homes," I didn't know that. But no, I really didn't know the history of it. I appreciate the history of it, but the structure itself, many Caribbean homes look exactly like that house that you showed just now. Many.
Yes, because when I was reading, it's a Bahamian style home in that particular area, because they settled that area. So of course, that's the only architectural that they know. That's why it looks like a home in the Bahamas. But because of where it was, and you got white people there, they just, and with the history, because now you're in America, it's like, that's a shotgun home. Based because them trying to, get rid of the black population that settled there. So there's a whole, like here, like in Louisiana, because they were trying to do the same thing. Racist, white racist people don't, they're just a bunch of miserable people, So so let me keep it pushing. So I'm gonna do chapter 5.
In 1894, this event took place, which became known as the Great Freeze. It was horrendous. People had never really seen anything like it in their lifetimes.
Dr. Marvin Dunn. For those of you who want to know who this man is, Dr. Marvin Dunn.
Everything froze. Florida was basically under ice. They say it even snowed in North Miami. What's now North Miami. And as a result of that freeze, Henry Flagler was convinced to bring his Florida East Coast Railroad on down from West Palm Beach, on down to the Miami River. So the Great Freeze was the defining moment for the birth of Miami. And it brought as many blacks, if not more blacks than whites, into South Florida, because their labor was needed on this land that was below the freeze line. Well, the Big Freeze was an act of God, and that act of God led to the establishment of the city of Miami and the arrival of thousands of blacks into this community. So yes, it was related to a natural event.
When John Sewell came down in March of 1896, he brought, as he put it in his memoirs, about 13 or 14 African Americans who had been working with him in West Palm Beach. And see, West Palm Beach was a staging ground for the elaborate Palm Beach across the lake. And so the really gritty work was done by people living in West Palm Beach, both in West Palm Beach work, but also they were building this great resort called Palm Beach. And Sewell brought down, as he later called it, his black artillery, referred to these voters and all, but these were trustworthy workers because Flagler had...
So again, I consider these Black American work migrants, because these were the men that were working on the railroad. So being so-called ex-slaves, they had certain skills, so they were able to do certain things that Flagler wanted to do. Again, if they say they don't run, they whatever. But I'm glad these Black African American men came down, because they also contributed to the building of Miami with our other FVA brothers. You got foundational Black Americans, and you got foundational Bahamian Americans coming together eventually.
I told him it's time now to build this great hotel that I told Miss Tuttle I'm going to build. Plus, I want it because I'm going to promote that as a tourist spot. And so he brought him down. They leveled the Indian burial mound in March of 1896, right on the edge of Biscayne.
Well, did you hear that? It said they started building, right? And they leveled the Indian burial ground.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I heard that.
If Black, again, to the Wabos and the Dane Callaways and the Tariq Nakoon saying they've been here, why would Black people desecrate their own burial grounds? I mean, no one should, you know what I'm saying? But I want them to dig in some history where they say, well, oh no, they were against it because they were their own, those are their people stuff. No, they were totally different people. Just like when you got FBA saying, oh, we fought for for Africans and Caribbeans to be here. We fought for you to get here. This is a bullshit history. That no such thing ever happened. Right? No such thing ever happened. So I would like for them to debunk this.
Down in March of 1896, right on the edge of Biscayne Bay. Then today it's about 3 blocks in, and they began to lay the foundation for the hotel. So these were workers that Sewell knew from earlier jobs.
The railroad was everything. People can't appreciate that now. But before there was I-95, before there was the turnpike, before there was air travel, there were trains. Everything moved on the railroad. So railroad magnates had a lot of power, a lot of money, a lot of influence. And the railroad also provided jobs. A lot of Black people worked on the railroad. One of the best jobs you could have in Miami was to be a Pullman car porter. Working the railroad from Miami to Jacksonville, back and forth. You wore a suit, you had a clean job, you got tips. It was wonderful. That was one of the high status jobs in Black Miami in the early years.
Suddenly, with the railroad converging on Miami, and then right away the railroad was laid from West Palm Beach down to the north bank of the Miami River. People come because they can get jobs working with the railroad, get jobs building, get jobs as entrepreneurs, whatever the case might be. So suddenly there's hundreds of people in Miami by the spring, summer of 1896. And the Flagler organization said, this is going to be unwieldy. What we need to do is get this place incorporated. And so they announced in late June they were going to have a pre-incorporation meeting, which they did. They incorporated on July 28, 1896. And about over a third of the voters were African Americans. They had been workers primarily for Flagler under the guidance of John Sewell, a white man. And as he said, he marched his Black artillery to the polls. They registered the vote, and they marched them to the polls to vote for incorporation. As it turned out, it was by acclamation anyway.
So you heard that they're going to get into it, how you had a lot of the Black African American, they're going to get into a Black African American men because they're started because, it became like a state later on and they were voting. They didn't have enough white people to vote. So all the African Americans and all the other, don't understand, Bahamians also, they went there and they voted and they took charge.
See, I want to make a statement, Kofi.
Yeah.
See, what happens usually is this all-in thing, because the FBA is talking about this whole delineation thing, right? But historically, if you wheel it back to, what is this, 1896 now?
Yeah.
You usually don't have really like serious documents saying who was who. So they see a bunch of Black people, some of them who have an American accents, and they actually think that these people are African American when in fact they may not have been. Yeah. When in fact they may not have been. The same mistake is made. Let me finish. The same mistake is made sometimes when Americans hear an accent. what do they say first and foremost, Kofi? They say, you Jamaican. They don't know how to distinguish between. They don't know how to distinguish between accents. They don't know if you're from Trinidad and Tobago, Guyana, Bahamas. As long as they hear an accent, you must be Jamaican. This is what they do to us. So this all-in thing, you have to be very careful with that from time to time. But I just wanted to put that out there.
No. You're absolutely right. My mother, because when my mother first came here, my mother could switch up. You listen to my mother talking on the phone, you swear you're talking to a white woman. Right,
and I have to agree with Bawa. I mean, it goes to the initial point I made in the initial conversation regarding categorizations. The problem resides from the get-go of how definitions are done in English, in the U.S. English, that it's so backwards that. By the way, I've been working silently in the background. I left you a link for the CARICOM. I don't know if you're aware what the CARICOM is.
Yeah. Okay. I have several links in the back chat. Once I get through it and we got time, I'm gonna hit all the links. Yeah,
and another one on the Letter of Jamaica written by Bolivar, which is a beautiful read for eventual future conversations in that sense. I do have to step off because I do have things to finish in my work, but I'll be more free on the weekends. I'll check this live later on tomorrow, go over it, and hopefully we can expand this type of conversations and challenge the gringo mindset.
Thanks, Ditso. Hasta luego.
Hasta luego. Yeah. Beshko Woblaba. Walk with your eyes open.
Yes, sir.
That's I'm gonna step down too, but play that again. I put that video in your private chat, all right? Because I know that it's hard to believe that someone would say something that ignorant. But whenever you finish your presentation, take a look at it. And,
I definitely will.
All right, man, and keep up the good work.
Yes, you too. Everyone go on Naps TV, Nappy Yankee. He has some good stuff there, especially like on Umar.
Yeah, I will go over that Breakfast Club debacle, but I'll speak to you guys.
All right, man. Peace.
All right, shout out to you, Naps. All right.
We have Hopping Rabbit. Hopping Rabbit, are you there?
Yeah, I'm here. I came to defend the Black Aborigine Indigenous.
This is Bakari.
This is Hopping Rabbit. What are you talking about? This is Hopping Rabbit. Let Hopping Rabbit talk.
I came to defend the FBAs, the ADOSs, and everyone, because they know we did everything here. We created hip hop. I don't care what nobody say. The Jamaicans trying to take our hip hop. We created hip hop. We built America, and they owe us reparations. They won't.
Africans too. Africans owe us reparations too.
Yeah. Them damn African booty scratchers. They owe us reparations, and I'm getting sick of this guy Kofi. I thought he was a good guy, but he constantly trying to take the work that the indigenous Black people of this land did. I heard him talking about Billy Bowlegs. He trying to take away everything that we have ever done. Dr. Claude Anderson taught us that Black people been here 20,000 years ago. We didn't come here from no Africa. And
hey, Hoppy Rabbit. Why did y'all make Eminem the king of hip hop? That's the question.
But it's okay for Eminem to be king of hip hop. He's a white American. He's American. But we would not let no Jamaican or no Afro Latino or none of that be a part. But it's okay for an American. It's okay. It's okay for an American to be a part. But you know what, man? I'm gonna say this. Look, everything you saying is absolutely. I'm enjoying this live, right?
Yeah.
And I did a live a couple weeks. I don't know if you had watched the whole thing, Kofi, because I know you had come in, but you said you had to step away.
Yeah, my daughter was in a hospital, so I had to step away.
Sorry to hear that. She's better?
No, yeah, she's fine. She's fine.
Okay. For the FBA to attack, I want y'all to understand this. For these people that call themselves FBA or ADOS or the Aborigine, Indigenous, or whatever name they're going to have today or tomorrow, for them to attack our family from the Caribbean and from the continent or from South America is natural. Just go look at the one video and you can see in the 1960s, so-called FBA, ADOS, Black Aborigine, whatever they was called, was in California, was mad because black people from down south
was coming.
moving to California. They're not like us. They're not like us. You know, the Kendrick Lamar son, they're not like, that's what they saying about the people from down south.
And they said
So
they were
now,
embarrassed about them too. I saw it. They said they were embarrassed.
Yes. So it's natural for them to take a shot at family because they are afraid. Because whenever they bring up this, we started hip hop conversation, tell them, okay, you started it. Ask them who control it. You know what they always say? Now you're moving the goalposts. No,
I say that all the time. Who controls it? Who benefits from it? We created rock and roll. Do you own the Rolling Stones? No, you don't. We created country music, which is one of the biggest genres in America, right? With the African banjo, right? First, white people, they demonize it. Then it catches on, right? Then they steal it from black people, right? Then you get nothing for it. You don't control anything right now. All you saying is like we control things and give it to white people. That's what you're proud of.
And they are okay with that as long as Bawana, Kofi, Oni, Koku, and anybody else.
You too. You a tether lover. Like a nigga lover, you a tether lover.
Yeah, I'm a tether lover. So you're right. So as long as they can attack us, they're okay.
Yep.
I'm gonna like, and it's so. And I'm gonna do a show about this. It was so embarrassing. I know everybody heard what Ryan Garcia did. The boxer went on the N-word rant. I even played a video. I'm gonna do another video about it. You got these so-called FBAs on a panel with Clarissa Shields. This is Clarissa Shields. Clarissa Shields say they talking about the 4th of July. We don't celebrate no 4th of July. We celebrate Juneteenth. Clarissa Shields say it's time for us to stop. What she say? It's time for us to stop spending money with these people. It's time for us to shut people down the way they would shut us down. And people like Ryan, they'll be mad if we got together and beat their ass. This is what the woman said. Pardon my French on your channel. Do you know what the men said?
What?
Well, what we need is some protection. We need to petition this government so we can get a Black American hate crime bill because they do not want to, like, the woman talking about what you need to do. The man talking about this FBA. This is the Black America. What we need is somebody to protect us. Like, what in the world? It's like these people with that FBA ADOS mindset, they're upside down. They're confused.
Yeah,
they are absolutely confused.
Goodness,
because you showed me some stuff that I didn't know about what Bahamians.
He's
Florida. I didn't know. So I appreciate this live. I really do. I appreciate
it. He's a tether lover, obviously. But what I was saying is that Glen Island, Mississippi, it'll be said in my mind as, because when I think about Glen Island, Mississippi, I think of Brother Bakari. Brother Bakari more hardcore than I am. You are hardcore than I am. There are some free brothers. This is why I don't get into the nativist argument, because there are some Bahamians here, and Koku will agree, who are a bunch of coons. And there are some of my brothers who in the United States of America who they have micro rhetoric and mindset. So I take a Glen Island, Mississippi. How could I not love African Americans when there are brothers and sisters like in Glen Island, Mississippi, who think just like me? How could I not love them? You know, why would you separate me away from my brothers? How could you think that I separate from Guyanese people when the brothers like Kofi exist, who have the same mindset as I do? Why are you all trying to separate me from my brothers just because the ship drop us off at different locations? I don't get into the nativist talk because I know Bahamians exist here who have a mindset just like FBA people. But there are Bahamians here who have the mind. There are Mississippian people. There are Guyanese people. There are some Haitian people, some, emphasize some, who think just like I do. So don't separate us because we're in different places. Separate, you have to, I choose to focus on the unity because the unity is stronger than the separation. And I focus on that first before I get into the negative business, you know?
It's like they copy everything except for white people do, except for unify. Like white people will fight behind closed doors, but on the world stage, they're the best of friends. They're the best of friends. And the first time I saw that outside of a book, I forgot what Olympics it was. It was some of the Olympics in the early 2000s. It was some Scottish Irish guy won, but he was playing for an English team. So the Queen walks down. The bitches that the Queen Elizabeth bitch. She was walking down, giving everybody the medal, putting the medal around their head. So as she's coming down the aisle, one Scottish guy turned around because we all know the history of England and Ireland and Scotland. He still doesn't like the English crown. And he's like, I don't care if you're giving me a medal, F you. And he turned around. And everybody's like, why is he doing that? And people say, oh, because he understands what Ireland, what England did to Ireland and little wars they were having, stuff like that. He's still going through that. And everybody understood. When it's us, it's like, oh my gosh, wow, you're race baiting. Oh, forget about the past. Why do you keep holding on to the past? You know what I'm saying? It's like no, right? They know how to get along, right? Why can't you do the same thing with us? They don't get along. You know anything about the history? They do not get along. Everything they did to us, they did to themselves. That's what they don't understand. Hangings, they did to themselves. Tying your limbs to horses and ripping your limbs apart, they did that to themselves. And there's not one thing they did to us that they did not do to themselves. So anyway, thank you all for that. Let me keep it pushing. So we're gonna play. I'm gonna start calling this the FBA panel, Foundation of Black Americans and Foundational Bahamian Americans. I'm gonna steal that acronym. I'm so gonna steal that acronym. All right.
Well, when the city of Miami was established in 1896, about 160 or so odd black men, out of a total of 340 or so men altogether, participated in the actual incorporation meeting for the city of Miami. Had the blacks not been there, and women didn't have the vote at that time, but had those black men not been there, the city of Miami could not have been established at that time because the state required a minimum number of voters for a place to become a city. And there simply were not enough white men present in 1896 to make that happen. So they ordered all the Flagler workers in to the meeting, and they were told to vote for the city to become established, and they did.
And then, I didn't know that. That wasn't taught in Miami history. I discovered it much later. And talking to Dorothy Fields, we started reading all this, and then I had seen their names, in the Sewell book. And then I said, wait a minute, his name is here on the incorporation list.
So, see, Brian, what we were talking about before, like the FBA will probably, because you see there's names. I know you want to get your point, you got your point out in the beginning, but the Flagler with all the black Americans that did the railroad, along with the Bahamians that was there, because the professor said that black women couldn't vote at all, and there were more black people. There were more black people in Miami than there were white people. So all the black people came there and vote and put their person in. That's how politics should work. But how does that will work if ADOS and FBA is saying we're two different people? White supremacy sees us as different, right? So those are black Americans. Right, these are FBAs. When I say FBAs on plural, I mean foundational Black Americans and foundational Bahamian Americans all came together and they established the city of Miami. I find that to be beautiful. That is Pan-Africanism right there. That is Pan-Africanism right there. So I really wanted to highlight that. I want to push it back a little bit because I found that to be beautiful. And I think that's how, if we all to get together and to say, well, you know what? In America, let's establish our place. our towns, right? And we get together and do that. That should be on the Black American agenda, right? Get a town, get a city, whatever. This is all ours, hands off, right? You want to deal with us? Deal with our governor, deal with our mayor, deal with our congressman, right? And we have our business, and we have business doing business with, hey, it's money. Like white people will do business with black people during civil rights, right? You couldn't go into the white store because it was only whites only. Guess what? After desegregation, they're taking your nigga money anyway. They'll still take your money. That's what they care about, right? Money talks. And that way we could trade with other places. We could trade with Latin America. We could trade with Africa. We could trade with the Caribbean. And within America, we have our own town. That's what should be the goal for all Black Americans, but it's just not happening.
Kofi, real quick.
Yeah.
Real quick. What you're talking about now was a thing in recent years, because we have a sister who podcasts on the network called the Matron, the Revolutionary Matron. And she, this is what, 3-4 years ago, she was talking about doing a project of trying to get land, I think it was in Georgia, and incorporating the land and what it takes to do. So Black folks were talking about this thing, and we're doing it. There was examples in recent years of Black folks getting acres and acres of land and incorporate it. This is the problem when we let these folks like Yvette Carnell, as Bakari would say, and Tariq Nasheed, so when we let them push these agendas and we don't try at least to seriously nip it in the bud, this is what happens. We end up losing ground. Like what you just said is absolutely correct. What Black folks should be trying to do is consolidate power into a few states, especially those states that face the Caribbean, that face the Bahamas, that's right there. The Bahamas, Jamaica, Haiti, etc. And they should really try to establish a bit of power in some consolidated states, right? But we are the majority, and you have the ability, because you're next to the Caribbean Sea and whatnot, you have the ability to actually carry on relations with other Black folk. But when these people come with the "they not like us" type shit, this is the problem. You end up devolving as a people instead of evolving, and that's all I wanted to say.
I want to add to that briefly, very briefly.
Yeah.
Koku mentioned the magic word that is. It is when people mention it, it scares. I mean, really, it really scares most people who, when they hear that word, they run and hide. He says, power. Power is a very dangerous word for some scary Negroes, especially people who love being on that plantation and don't want to take personal responsibility for their own actions. Power is a scary word in a mindset of subjugated people. Extremely dangerous word. But I appreciate him at least using that word to see what we actually dealing with. We're dealing with the issue of power and people who are trying to get it, and people who don't mind other people having it so they can issue out their agendas off on everyone else. Power is a dangerous word, Coco. I'll leave it there.
Appreciate that.
To become established, and they did.
And then, I didn't know that. That wasn't taught in Miami history. I discovered it much later. And talking to Dorothy Fields, we started reading all this, and then I had seen their names, in the Sewell book. And then I said, wait a minute, his name is here on the incorporation list. There's actually a list. And the first one happens to be Black. It's not alphabetical. This was the list.
Blacks were kind of political pawns, as some people say we are today. But essentially, they were used by the railroad, by the flagel structure, to really move whatever political agenda the railroad had.
What's unheard of is that we've got a very important American city that was incorporated so late, 1896. and it had such a sizable percentage of incorporators who were African Americans. That part was unheard of.
Overtown used to be called Colored Town, and it was born when the city was founded, 1896, exclusively for blacks. As the Flagler Railroad came south, a lot of towns sprung up. West Palm Beach, Fort Lauderdale, all of these little towns sprung up as the railroad came through. And in each case, the black community was established in the northwest quadrant of each of those towns. So if you go to West Palm Beach, blacks from the northwest quadrant. Fort Lauderdale, blacks live in the northwest quadrant. Miami, we live in the northwest quadrant. So unless you think blacks had a chromosome that made us gravitate towards the northwest corners of communities, that could have been a plan. And the plan was for the railroad, but planned by the railroad was to have blacks isolated, separated from the rest of the community, but close enough to get to work. So that was the plan for the establishment of these black communities in the northwest quadrant.
This is where we get the term the wrong side of the tracks. And this was happened all throughout American history, right? So they were able, they worked on the railroad, but they're cultivating, the space around over there so it could be, because they opened up tourism and all these places, and you wanted to be convenient so they could go get to the railroad, so people going on or off the railroad is convenient. Yeah, but you need your workers. But they're black. No. You go over there, right? So literally there are places in this country where even it's the next block. I've been to Baltimore. Literally, it will be the hood. It will be ghetto as hell. Abandoned buildings. Literally, the next block. It's like a different world. It's like a different world. I'm like, what the hell? And people will still call that what? The other side of the tracks, right? All this is deliberate. White people have the same gameplay, same strategy. It's nothing new under the sun. As far as like what they did, this is why what they did over there, try to establish a black town. Fine, you want to keep me there? Yeah, fine, keep me there, and do something like they did in Tulsa, something what they did in Jacksonville. Yeah, put me over there, and I'll do what I have to do, and I'll make it nicer than your town, right? So I just wanted to mention that, because that hit me like, oh, that's something that was being always done. That's called the wrong side of the tracks, or the other side of the tracks.
When Overtown was established, it was a highly segregated community. You couldn't leave Overtown if you were a black person after dark, for example, or you run the risk of being arrested. There was a concerted effort by the powers that be to keep blacks restricted to Colored Town, particularly after dark.
Colored Town, the races by law had to live apart. And so as soon as Miami incorporated in 1896, Colored Town is established. Up until then, they settled, they lived in tents or makeshift places around white people. But now that you've institutionalized the city by incorporating, you need to do something about this. And so the northwest quadrant of the city was set aside as an African-American community called Colored Town, which is not an unusual name. Many segregated black communities in the South are called Colored Town.
This area has had several names. Originally Colored Town, then Overtown, the Central Negro Business District, all of these names attended to Overtown. But the reason I understand that this area is called Overtown, and a lot of controversy about that, is that if you lived in Coconut Grove, south of here, and you wanted to visit someone black here in Miami, you had to go over downtown to get here. Thus the term Overtown stuck for this area.
I tend to think that earlier period was a great period. Now, I understand, speaking as a guy born later and a guy who's a Caucasian, the deprivation that many people experienced there, the outdoor privies, no library for a while, no high school till 1927. But I really think it was a community that really took care of its own needs. And so for me, the golden age, even though there are these problems, with sanitation and Ku Klux Klan, with thuggish white policemen, I think it was a pretty good age by and large. The community was forced to be self-sufficient and was self-sufficient. Oh,
if you don't get the fuck out of here with that shit, he sound like fucking Byron Donald. Basically saying Jim Crow, the best time when black people were doing together and families were together was during Jim Crow. Did you hear what that white man just said? Or is it just me, guys? Is it just me?
No, I heard it as well. It's a long repeated trope in Black history, particularly from white historians and stuff, that the best time for blacks was Jim Crow. Now I get that there was something good about it, and in the sense that black folks had to deal with black folks.
By force.
By force, albeit by force, black people had to deal with black folks. But what a lot of people don't get, black folks included, is that period of time was not a good period of time in America, period.
Yeah.
And if you were black, yeah, it was a Great Depression. If you were black, being that as a caste system, you were in the bottom of them anyway. So that means you were underneath their majority at the time, poor whites and all that kind of stuff. So it wasn't a great time overall. But it was a time where, like you said, more so, I think more or less by force, black folks had to work with one another. So yeah, there was a black school, there was a black business, and this, that, and the third. And I wish that sentiment had carried on, because after a while, it seemed like white ice seemed colder. Black folks just rushed out
exactly
to go buy from white folks and stuff like that. But yeah, that thing he said, I've heard that so much that I kind of don't even pay attention to it. But I did pick up on it just now as well.
I want to talk about this briefly, because I think that there's some misunderstandings going on. Okay, so I don't see this as a bad time. And the reason why I would say that is because this is a time when they had this idea of separate but equal. Separate, we are in your society. Yes, we are American citizens, but we separated because of race. Okay, no problem. We separated because of race, no problem. But the problem I have with this is that if you say that we are separate, okay, then our interest is separate from your interest. Therefore, who we choose to do business with should be separate from you as well. So if I decide to choose a partner, because most America functions on the basis of external partnership. So if I choose within the black community, within in American society, to choose in terms of interest for my community, hey, maybe we should have a relationship with the Chinese, because the Chinese choose, they are deciding to sell us products at a discounted rate. They are deciding to do business with us out, in a way that we believe to be beneficial for us within our community. They are providing services within our community. Well, you all choose to go your way, Europe. You all want to do European business and European discussions and European whatevers. Okay, so if you say that we are a separate community, let us practice separation in a different way. Choose the interests of within our community, or who we want to establish partnerships with internally in America and externally in America. If you want to allow us to go our own way, but they don't do that. They say, okay, we separate but equal, but you still need to practice Americanism the way we say you should practice Americanism. That's the problem I have with this whole idea of segregation. We still have to play by your rules. I don't want to play by your rules. Let me play by my rules, but still be an American citizen. You understand what I'm saying, Koku? Or I going off on a tangent?
No, I see what you. I know you direct towards Koku, but real quick, they're saying that because it's and that's what gave to the civil rights, because what they're doing is unconstitutional and it's kind of hypocritical. How can you have something that's separate but equal, right? Yeah, your left hand and your right hand is not the same, but it's still part of the same body. What they're trying to do is separate you from the body. What Malcolm X says, taxation without representation. Martin Luther King showed the hypocrisy of the American government. You're a citizen. Yes, I'm a citizen. All right, then I want to protest. Nigga, no, you can't. Right? All these state laws that they had were unconstitutional laws, but you had white people playing ball with other white people, and it's like, it's messed up, but it's unconstitutional, but you know what I'm saying? Until we start making noise, like, wait, you're gonna tax me, and I have less representation from you. That's not equal.
Yes, I understand.
We're separate, but
Yeah.
I don't get the same opportunities as you, according to you, and according to the Constitution. You know what I'm saying? We can look at the 13th and 14th Amendment. You know what I'm saying? It's like the whole Dred Scott decision. It's like, okay, it's 1776. You know, it's July 4th, 1776. You're looking at Dred Scott. Dred Scott is reading it, the Declaration of Independence. Each man, all men are created equal and should have a life of happen, liberty.
You're paying taxes.
And I'm like, hey, can I be free too? Nah, nigga, get out of here. wait. I'm not. No. This, and then, okay, niggas is getting some sense now. They think they're fucking men, right? So let's take it to the Supreme Court, right? It's gonna call the Dred Scott decision. Nah, y'all niggas are still niggas. Y'all ain't citizens. You see what I'm saying? So it's I see where you're coming from, Koku, but Buana and Koku, I see where you're coming from. It forced us to be together, but at the same time, they could take our FBA brothers could take a page from the rest of the diaspora, right? Could take a page from Bahamas, from Trinidad, right? We didn't have to be subjugated in order to do business with each other. We weren't reaching out. Don't go, Mr. White Man, on the boat back to England. Don't go. We weren't like, no. We were dealing with each other, right? It's the part that makes it horrible is that no, you forced us into a corner where we have to do with each other, and I kind of want to like dispel that trope as well. Oh well, it's a good time because of Jim Crow laws, so we had to deal with each other, like make it seem like a burden. Like, what's wrong with me dealing with my mother or my uncle that owns the store? There's nothing wrong with that. You know what I'm saying? But I do get where everybody's coming from. I'm not saying anyone is wrong, but you know, it puts a spin on it. Like you have to. Black people are not smart enough to work with each other collectively, and we always gotta be like a horse to water. Like, okay, let me show you now. It's okay. It's all right for you to work with other black people now. You know, it's you know that's okay, right? You know what I'm saying? So that's all I'm just trying to say. So I don't know if you guys got anything to say to that.
Yeah, briefly. This is the problem with the internalized colony. The internalized colony was forced to have to work with one another, while also in many ways, I'm not saying absolutely, but in many ways, I'm sure, while they had to covet what the dominant society had going on. Oh man, I wish I could go into that movie theater and watch Bing Crosby or whoever the fuck was the guy at the time, right?
Yeah.
But like you said, Kofi, just now, which is absolutely right, and Buana said something that's correct too. I just have one thing I would fix. In the islands, for example, when them people left, for the most part, you know, we kind of work with each other. I'm not saying there wasn't people running downtown the Bay Street to John Bull, but what I am saying is locally and you know in our local areas, people was doing business with one another. The one thing I would say, going back to the internalized colony thing, the problem with that psychology that came out of that is, you know, they want to kind of work with white folks here. Buana mentioned the Chinese. I would say that they should have looked to work with other black nations. Now, I know before 1950 or so, you couldn't really find black nations except maybe Haiti. But once black nations started to pop up, especially during the civil rights movement, I feel like the civil rights movement should have been directing folks to that. Consolidate power, like I mentioned before, get close to the water, get close to the Caribbean Sea, right? And then start establishing agreements with black, burgeoning black nations that were coming about, that would have been a powerful, powerful move. And that's something I think people should reflect on a little bit more. I'll land my plane there.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with that. Yeah, I absolutely agree with that. My whole thing is just my whole thing is just I kind of lost my train of thought. My whole thing is just us not. It sounds a little bit tropish, a little bit. Where as far as like we shouldn't be on thing. Oh, we have to work with each other and stuff like that. As something. But I just remembered because you're right, Cuckoo. Because during the civil rights era, one thing it fixed so-called systematic racism. It opened up a lot of gateways. It revamped a lot of rules and regulations and federal laws in that way. But one thing it didn't do, and I'm pretty sure we all agree, we were sick people, right? If a woman gets raped or someone goes through anything traumatic, I got robbed or this, that, and the other, what they always tell you to do. Do you need services? Do you need to talk to somebody? No one ever came to black people and said that. It's just like, all right, you're free now. Go. Get out of here. Go. Right? So even though now we have access to all these places, like, hey, look, I don't mind going down to Black John's store, but Miss Ann over there, she got a beautiful dress. My wife's been looking at that dress. I could go in there and get it now. And Miss Ann had to sell me the dress. I get that. The problem is that our minds weren't fixed. We always held on Eurocentrism and European and white people, like Cuckoo said, and I always say this term too, that white ice is colder. So that's where the problem lies, because if we were like, okay, I'll do business with you and every now and again, but I'm not going to go to you like the sun shines out of your ass. And we didn't get that mental, we weren't fixed mentally. And I think that's where the civil rights dropped off. And I think if Martin Luther King wasn't assassinated and we had a lot more people step to the plate more aggressively, like Stokely Carmichael and other people are saying, hey, look, all these people's getting it while you guys just flood into these white areas. Anyway, I can talk about this all day. Let me just get back to it.
The deprivation that many people experience there, the outdoor privies, no library for a while, no high school till 1927. But I really think it was a community that really took care of its own needs. And so for me, the golden age, even though there are these problems, with sanitation and Ku Klux Klan, with thuggish white policemen, I think it was a pretty good age by and large. The community was forced to be self-sufficient and was self-sufficient.
Oh,
MAGA.
I loved it. It was great. It was great. It was like a family. Everybody knew each other. Everybody cared for each other. If you didn't have some flour, if you didn't have some sugar, or whatever you didn't have, you went to your neighbor and you could borrow it. And then your neighbor looked out for you if anybody saw us doing anything wrong. They would tell my grandmother or tell my aunt.
If you were to ask me where the richest people in Dade County live, I would have to say Fisher Island, behind me. Probably the greatest concentration of wealth in Dade County. But at one time, that island, now named after Carl Fisher, the founder of Miami Beach, was owned by a black man. His name was D.A. Dorsey. D.A. Dorsey purchased that island for the express purpose of having a place where black people could actually get into salt water. So Fisher Island, owned by D.A. Dorsey up until the Great Depression of the 1930s, was the only place where blacks could come, not just from Dade County, but from other parts of the country to swim and to enjoy the benefits of beautiful Biscayne Bay. When the Depression hit, Mr. Dorsey needed cash like everybody else, and it was during that time that he sold the property to Carl Fisher, who was the developer of Miami Beach, and that's why this is now called Fisher Island. We are standing in front of the Lyric Theater. The Lyric was the social center of Overtown during its heyday. This building was erected around 1917 on black man, Gina Walker. And everything that happened that was of social importance happened in this building. Its importance to the community culturally and historically is unsurpassed. It's the most historic building still standing in Overtown today. Well, during Overtown's boom, the Lyric was a place to be. You would want to be here to see the latest movies, to be entertained by the biggest entertainers of the time. This was a major place to be during the heyday because of the attraction of this place to so many performers. A lot of the nightclubs in Overtown, the big clubs, attracted many white patrons. They would come to Overtown, not so much for the movies or for some of the more black-oriented events here, but to the nightclubs. A lot of these folks found their best entertainment in Overtown. But even then, even in the black nightclubs in Overtown, they were segregated. The whites had one section, the blacks had the other section. In their own neighborhood, that was segregation. Black Miami.
That's the separate but equal.
Town was the Harlem of the South. People called it that, the Harlem of the South. Anything you could get in Harlem on Lennox Avenue, you could get here on 2nd Avenue or 3rd Avenue, right here in Overtown.
Overtown experienced so many problems with law enforcement, both the legal law enforcement, meaning the police, and extra legal. The police, it's the Deep South community in many ways, all the way through the 60s. And the police were just, they were thuggish. My dissertation was on criminal justice, and there were stories where they would look at statistics for a month of arrest, and I think 1 month there were like 38 arrests, 37 were African Americans. They only comprised 25% of the population, stuff like that. And then there was the extra legal problem. The Klan entered Miami, as far as we know, in 1921 for the first time, and they would kidnap 2 ministers, one in Coconut Grove, one in Overtown, in 21, tarred and feathered both, pushed them out of speeding cars, attempted to force them to go back to the Bahamas. The Reverend Higgs in Coconut Grove did go back. There were no.
That's what you were talking about, Koku? What the Ku Klux Klan did? They kidnapped a couple ministers and one with some.
Yeah. I think that's a part of it.
Yeah. So he spoke about that. So again, this is the part where it debunks FBA bullshit nonsense of white supremacy being passive towards Black Americans. I mean, being towards past Black Caribbeans and be extremely aggressive towards Black Americans. Which, like, again, people that say that, just like when Nappy was saying the stupid thing that other FBA guy says, that makes no sense. That's not how they see it. They targeted both of us, and this is what I'm going to say about. I ain't stepping on your toes if you understand history and white supremacy. I always tell FBA this. You admit and you know that you living in the belly of the beast, you're living with the devil, right? Why would you burn other bridges for you to get out of the belly of the beast? If this shit goes to hell, I got like 3 places where I could go. I could go to Guyana. I could go to Jamaica. I could go to Panama, right? Because my wife is Panamanian Jamaican, right? I go to Panama. I think
you can come to the Bahamas, man. I give you a bed too. You know what I mean? Don't think you would have a bed here.
Yeah, thank you, appreciate it. I'm saying that to say is that if you guys know that and they don't think ahead, why would you do that? Why would you paint yourself literally in a corner with no way out in the belly of the beast? You see the Bahamian, he's like, nah, it's crazy in them states. I'm going back home, right? Black Americans, they're stuck. You're stuck. You will want help. You will want help. That's why I'm saying embassies are important. And and I'll say this again. I used to be a fan of Polite. But one thing Polite said, a lot of good things. One thing that he said that I think would be an instant solution, and we all know about West Africa giving us on the bold to return. If Black Americans were to take a DNA test, right, and whatever percentage you come up, so let's say you come up, me, I'm mostly Cameroonian and I think Congolese or Sub-Saharan African, right? You know what? I want to be the Cameroonian government. I'm Cameroonian and I'm part of the Wolof people. No, that's Senegal. Anyway, let's say I'm Wolof or whatever, right? If we all were to do that and the United States mistreat us, oh, they just shot and killed, God forbid, ancestors forbid, or they just harmed that black person. Who are you, black man? Oh, I'm from Ghana. You're Ghanaian? Yes, I'm Ghanaian. Now it's like, oh, you doing that to Ghanaian people? I'm going to my embassy. I'm going to the UN. Look how you're treating Ghanaian people. It's going to be different other than I'm a black American. Okay, so who you going to go to? Same white man that just shot you in your ass. And it doesn't go nowhere. I think that will change the whole dynamic of how we're going to be treated because they're not treating you as a subject or a citizen that they could do away with. They're dealing with they're dealing with countries now. They're dealing with countries now. I think that would be a game changer, but that's a pipe dream. I don't think that's ever going to happen. But I know if they're doing that to people like me, I'm in Brooklyn right now. Let's say police start doing a whole bunch of crazy. Oh, yeah, y'all don't like West Indian people or Caribbean people or whatever. Oh, that's a third Trini. That's a third Trini. You did that too. That's the fourth GT person. You did that too. And I go, I'm going to the embassy. I'm going to the embassy and call the embassy. Then they'll be like, whoa, hold on now. The dynamic is just different. But I spoke too much. I don't know if anyone has to say anything about that. All right, cool. I'll just play it.
Never any charges, never any arrests, nor any prosecution of those cases. And it was the Klan. And the Klan would march through Overtown. As late as 1939, there was a spring municipal election. There was a man named Sam Solomon who had organized a lot of new voters in Overtown. And he was going to take them to the polls the next day. The Klan didn't march. They drove through Overtown early May of 39, and they had a sort of a makeshift noose, and they had a black man hanging from it, and attempted to vote. But the next day, Solomon marched.
It pains me to do this. Ancestors, forgive me, but I'm doing what they did with Trayvon Martin as an example. For all the people who say that voting doesn't matter, all right? Why would they take a black man like this that did his due diligence as an American citizen to vote if voting doesn't matter? Like things like this gets me like it gets me upset when we have this mind-numbing ideology of what politics is. Oh, it's not important. Oh, it doesn't matter who you vote for and stuff like that. It doesn't matter who you don't vote for. It does matter. I'm not saying vote no matter for what, but at least say, you know what, I'm going to vote for this reason. This is a strategic reason why I'm voting. This is a strategic reason why I'm not voting. There's also a strategic reason why I'm voting for this person and not that person. At least you understand the process that there's an end goal for it, for the betterment of, not for you selfishly, for the betterment of your people and for your life. And I think as a people, once we start having that conversation of what is better for us, I mean, America is not going to be saying Bahamas, what's in Bahamas not going to be same as Guyana, but you know what I'm saying, as African people in wherever we are, collectively, we need to have that conversation and be on the same page, because you got whether matter if it's Joe Biden or Trump, they sticking by their guy no matter what. The Republican is sticking by Trump no matter he's a pedophile, he's on an Epstein list, he's a criminal. They sticking by him. Biden needs to drop out. But then you got some people say, I don't care. Whoopi Goldberg said, I don't care if he shit his pants. I don't care if he does this. I don't care if he don't know how to speak. They're sticking by him. What's your reason? At least they have reasons. We need to have reasons collectively of why we're not messing with someone, or why we are messing with someone, and it just has to make sense, because this is what they do. When we take our vote for granted, they go, oh, good.
And attempted to vote. But the next day, Solomon marched those people north on 2nd Avenue, which splits into First Place, and then from First Place up to Northwest 14th Street and over to the fire station, which is now being restored. It's over Miami Avenue, 14th Street, and they voted. So the Klan was a force for decades, not just the early mid-20s, but they remained here. The Klan was, I don't know how robust it was, but it appeared periodically. And by then, its targets are Catholics, Jews, not just black Catholics, Jews, Filipinos married to, say, a Caucasian woman. I mean, they went after everybody who didn't fit their narrow definition of 100% white American Protestant.
So you guys say I'm gonna probably show my ass again, but again, if I were to vote, right? I mean, I wish Cornel West was running, but if I were to vote, I will have to vote for Joe Biden, not because he's the end all be all. I had to vote for Joe Biden because at least he's smart enough to know what he has to do. At least he doesn't have a bunch of see all the things that this guy's mentioned. You got Project 2025 that's coming, right? If Trump gets back in, is rolling back all basic civil rights, right? You have all the people when people say, well, Trump is not racist, or oh well, if Trump is not racist, why do all the racists support Trump? Why do all the white nationalists support Trump? So as a black person, right, in America, knowing American history, I don't understand how someone could go vote for Donald Trump and try to make some equivalency of Joe Biden racism versus Donald Trump's racism. And I'm like, I just don't understand that. I mean, up to this day, Donald Trump says the Central Park 5 needs to die. There's no death penalty in New York. He said they need to die. Well, but Mr. Trump, they were exonerated through DNA evidence, and the person came and said that they did the crime. Oh, they need the death penalty anyway. Like, what the fuck? Like there's no equivalent of Biden even saying or doing anything like that. Up to like Trump saying that Africans are criminals and they're coming over to this country, calling African countries shithole countries, saying Africans are criminals. They wanted to shoot Black Lives Matter on protesters in the leg. So these are black people and white allies. Like anyway, I guess I said I just don't understand people like that, knowing all that.
Was married to, say, a Caucasian woman. I mean, they went after everybody who didn't fit their narrow definition of 100% white American Protestant.
Oh, before that, let me share one thing. We almost come into the end. So right here, to drive another point home, let me share right here. So because this is talking about the Klan terrorizing South Florida, here is an article that I found, right? Bahamianology. The Bahamians revisit so the Bahamians on the run from the Ku Klux Klan, 1924, right? So here is the actual, seems like the actual article. This is official at ICE plant, victim of Negroes, gun worker. He discharged, hunted as slayer of Milton M. Hall. Shots are fired into his back. Brother of assailant hurt when shot as posse surrounds home. Right? Again, I'm just driving home where FBAs think for some crazy reason Yvette Carnell and Tariq Nasheed and their cult following think that the Klan looks at black people differently because they look, I don't know, maybe they're checking hairlines like they said. I don't know. Because look, if my hairline has to be all the way to the back because my head is so big and I got a big brain, that's fine. That means that you got, if your hairline is low like that, you look like a goddamn Neanderthal. So I don't get it. Let me have my pushback hairline. I don't got one, but I'm saying let me have my pushback hairline because anything that's black or African, they demonize. But I wanted to show you this article just to drive home that it was a thing that happened during that time. So yeah, go ahead.
The funny thing with that story is in the American paper, they mentioned that the Bahamian guy was bad as Billy, which is like a Bahamian phrase, or used to be a Bahamian phrase, like bad as a Billy goat, meaning like he came back to Nassau and he stood on it. He ain't tried to hide and deny what he did. He stood on it. You know, and there's folks out here who will claim. By the way, the U.S. tried to get Britain to send him back to the States, and there was a outcry from the public that stopped that.
Oh, really? I didn't know that.
Yeah. So when people say they're the only ones who fight white supremacy, whatever that means, no. A lot of people was bad like Billy when it comes to that. These white folks taking advantage of black folks. I'll just land my plane there. Oh, and by the way, shout out to Nick Rich. I don't know them, but he's out there in the chat checking out the scene. So appreciate you, Nick Rich. And if you're listening to my voice, hit the like button, and share the episode to your peoples.
Yeah, thanks, Nick. Thanks, Nick, for joining. Thanks for joining. All right, let me continue. We're pretty much coming to the end. This is gonna be part 2. Because I know the conversation goes on long. If I did everything, it'll be an 8-hour show. So we're about to come to an end.
In 1926, there was no weather bureau. People had no way of knowing what was coming from out there. This thing came in late at night, swept across Miami, went right over downtown Miami. The eye passed over downtown Miami. And when it did, people thought the storm was over. A lot of folks who just new arrivals here, they went running out onto the ocean front to see the damage. The Bahamians knew better. They knew the other side of the storm was coming. So you had all these people who were killed mainly because they exposed themselves to the rushing water coming in on the other side of the hurricane.
Bahamians knew better.
Yeah, we call it the eye. Do we call it the eye of the storm?
Yeah, but the white man and other people had to get really study it. But when you live in those areas, those regions, you know better. So I love the fact that it's like, nah, Bahamians know better. It's like when a tsunami's coming, the water just recedes and no one thinks nothing's happening. But you have to be familiar with how a tsunami, when the tsunami's coming, what are the signs? So I just love the fact that he said, hey, the Bahamians knew better.
They knew the other side of the storm was coming. So you had all these people who were killed mainly because they exposed themselves to the rushing water coming in on the other side of the hurricane. So it was a great event. It destroyed the city of Miami for the most part, but had an even worse effect on Colored Town, what we now call Overtown. The buildings there were shanties for the most part. They were vulnerable to the storm. Many more folks were left homeless in Overtown than in other parts of the community. So it had a great effect on the city of Miami because after that they put buildings up with bricks and concrete rather than wood. But Overtown Colored Town was severely damaged by the storm. Then the city and the county and possibly others went to Colored Town and got the black men to come and help clean up for free, to remove bodies, to clear the streets. And you didn't get to choose not to do it. If they came and told you that you were on a work crew to clean up after the hurricane, you had to go. Well, this was a common practice. If that was a natural disaster, not just in Miami, the modus operandi would be to go to the black community and get black men to come in and clean it up. So this happened in most of the major events that I can think of that required that kind of labor. Blacks were required to do it. The same things that we experienced during Hurricane Andrew in 1992, people experienced that in 1926. But there was no federal government to come rushing in to help. So people had many, many weeks of isolated survival, trying to exist under these horrendous circumstances. But
I don't know what y'all got to say that I can't imagine living in a time where Mr. Charlie comes knocking on my door and say, you need to clean up my house and all the debris in my house. Like that's what I'm saying.
That's wild.
Yeah, go ahead.
No, I was just saying that's wild.
Yeah.
It's like the situation with Emmett Till, whose uncle gave the boy to the men who came to the door. It's like, what the hell you do that for? You know what I mean? Like that I forget the word now, but that going along shit is a
go
damn
along
shit.
To get along.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the thing, Again, this is supposed to be a unifying thing, but again, this whole narrative that, look, if I lived there, I'm pretty sure if I lived there, right, and those were the odds against me, what are we gonna do? It's you against a whole bunch of white people. It's like, boy, just do it and come back home. You know what I'm saying? But there may be some black people could have been like, hey, look, we ain't doing that shit. Fuck you. I'm not doing that. Clean up your own shit. I got my shit to clean. You clean your shit up. Right. But this false narrative that black people at every step fought white people is just ridiculous. It's just ridiculous. And I'm trying to imagine myself in that situation where the white man is the rule. Whatever he says, it just goes. I didn't even know that. When I saw this, I was like, what? And I'm like, how? And then all of a sudden, as I'm asking myself the question, I have the answer already. Like, they could fight, but it's like, I don't know. It's a hard decision, and we don't know.
They could fight. They could see the blacks at that time. You know, you have and this time too. By the way, you have the laws where if you fight them, then and you win or lose, at the end of the day, you all get called before a court. And unfortunately for you, the judge is the white guy's cousin.
Yeah.
And so is the jailer. So I mean, the infrastructure itself, even if you win or lose, is at benefit to who? The person you're fighting against. So what do you do in the scenario, bro? It's a lose-lose situation, you know?
Exactly. Either you're gonna be dead or in jail. You know what I'm saying? You're gonna be dead in jail. And you know, sometimes, you know, you can't, it's not smart to fight every battle, especially if it's not gonna lead you to win the war. Because, like, let's say it's like, I don't know, I'm just gonna pull a number out. Let's say it's like 500 white people and only 200 black people. I mean, like, what are you doing? And they got the federal government on their side. You see what I'm saying? You see what they did in Tulsa, Oklahoma. And Tulsa, Oklahoma was the first time where they actually used the National Guard and the Army to intervene into a state conflict. You know what I'm saying? Nothing, everything goes. Only thing that matters is a W. But I'm just imagining, it's like, just live like that. You have to be, even though you're free, you're at the beck and call of white people, right? What's Nick saying? Nick said, what did Nick say? He says it's easy to arrive at that conclusion when your land is smaller and your skin color outnumbers the white skin color of every law. Says it's okay for you to die on the spot, no questions asked. Nick is right. Nick is right. It's pretty much what you know what we're saying. He said, "Fight who? The U.S. government, the police, the lawmakers. Who are they going to fight?" Yeah, like, they're all towns that fought back no longer exist. That's also true, right? So the dynamic is, yeah. Go ahead.
Hey, let me say, I'm on. You was something you just said. I was going to mention, but somebody wrote. He said the towns that fought back no longer exist. It's a history that I want black people to learn. That is not true. That is absolutely not true. Study. And this is what I was going to say. You notice if you talk to these people, everybody knows Tulsa, Oklahoma, Rosewood, what happened in Wilmington, North Carolina. Ask these people why they never talk about Mound Bayou, Mississippi. I'm from Mississippi, so I know that. Ask them what happened and why Mound Bayou, Mississippi is the oldest black town in this country, and it's still the only town in this whole country that only black people has ever lived in. And when the Klan came to destroy it, 15,000 black people met them with guns and bullets, and they ran away.
15,000. Wow.
They could not destroy them they could not physically destroy them. They still exist. It's not what it was a long time ago. They had to get them another way. But the town is still there. It's about 3,000 people now, but still nothing has ever lived there. Since 1875, ain't nothing ever lived in that town but black people.
What's the name of that event? I would like to read about that. I would like to read about that event. That's
Just,
something
just
that's very
study.
inspirational.
If you study Mound Bayou, Mississippi, MOUNDBAYOU, 2 words, Mound Bayou, Mississippi.
Mm.
But what I was going to say, see, this is an excellent, like I said, this is interesting and it's great what you're doing. When you're showing, you call it FBA. So y'all going to be FBA, the Foundation of Bahamian
Bahamian
Americans.
Americans.
The other FBA, y'all going to be FBA too. FBA 1 is Foundation of Billy Apes. Then we got the Foundation of Bahamian Americans, right? See, they don't like to talk about the history where other black people came here. Everybody know who Fannie Lou Hamer is. And I'm quite sure, I don't know if I met Koku yet, but I know I knew Bawana. And I did a live on it talking about Fannie Lou Hamer. Fannie Lou Hamer was one of my pop's very best friend.
Yeah, you were telling
Look,
me that
look,
when I was on your thing.
look
I
up
read
her,
about Fannie Hamer. I love that woman.
look up her connection to Africa. She went to Africa. Look and see how many people from Africa, and people thought I was lying when I told them, but this stuff I know for a fact. So then I had to look it up and show them. Look and see how many people from Africa was reaching out, asking black people during the civil rights movement, what do y'all want us to come and do? So then I showed where Fannie Lou Hamer said, whatever you do, just come here with us. And you had people from Kenya, from what is it? Another East African country, I can't remember, Nigeria, Ghana. They literally came over here and they did set-ins, they marched with Fannie Lou Hamer, MLK. So when they spin this narrative, and I've shown this, I've shown this live. I took those videos down, but I'll go through and get my stuff for you if you need to see it. But they spin this narrative like ain't nobody ever come here to help. Those people weren't thinking about us because they have to spin that narrative because they are afraid of everyone else. They are afraid of everyone else, and they have smoke for black people, and they are the worst. I'm just being honest. ADOS, FBA, the Aborigine, they are the worst. And white people have the uncanny ability, the great ability of, and as like you said earlier, the same thing they did to us before they did it to our ancestors, African people, they did it to themselves.
Yep,
They
did it to
have the
themselves.
ability, they have the ability to destroy you, take everything you have, rape you, rob you, kill you, feed you pig guts, and then have a way of making you be loyal to them. And that's what you see now with this thing called, with these people that call themselves ADOS and with these people that call themselves FBA. They are showing their loyalty to their slave, to the descendants of the slave owners, descendants of the overseers, descendants of the straw boss. Just remember, these people that calling themselves FBA and ADOS, they are waiting for the right opportunity to sell me, you, or anyone else with an African mindset, a unity, an African unity mindset. They are waiting for the right opportunity to sell either one of us out. But I just wanted to touch on that, and if you need the information, I just go look it up. I know what my information is. I just had to go
Yeah,
through my stuff.
Yeah,
But I,
brother Bakari, brother Bakari,
yeah,
you must. Yeah, there's two stories that's told about Mississippi, because when we hear about Mississippi, it's always black people getting mistreated and never fighting back. And you have the information in regards to black people actually pulling up guns and fighting and defending themselves in Mississippi. So I think that story has not been told yet. And you, as a Mississippian, you really need to tell more of that story, brother.
oh, okay. I'm gonna say this. Everybody know the Stono Rebellion,
yeah.
one of the, and everybody know Nat Turner Rebellion.
Mm-hmm.
But one of the greatest rebellions, if you get an opportunity, look up, just Google New Africa, Mississippi, dating back into the 1780s. And these people named it New Africa. White people didn't name it, they
Yep.
named it New Africa.
Yep.
It was a group of slaves that got together and rebelled. They were looking for the ocean, but the part of Mississippi we were in, that they're in, nowhere near the ocean, about 4 or 5 hours away.
Oh, they were
They
further up. They were like further north than south.
Yeah, they were further north. Yeah, they were further north. They were closer to where I'm from. It's in a place today called Clarksdale, Mississippi. But it was New Africa, Mississippi. If you look at old Union maps, you can see where the town named New Africa, Mississippi existed. These people named it New Africa, Mississippi. And you know why they were never enslaved? If you read the story and you study the story, they defeated every white militia and every Native American militia that they sent out in those woods to attack them. And they were on the Union map because the Union Army realized that they could not go in the woods where these people had settled and made them a place to live. They couldn't go in the woods and defeat them.
Mm. So
It's
early
called
type of guerrilla warfare of Maroon.
yes, yes. And of course they can't tell you that about Mississippi because they have to have the propaganda to keep people thinking one way about Mississippi. Because if you constantly look at Mississippi and Alabama, you would never look at what's going on where you live.
Mm. No, thanks for that. What about Nick? Nick is saying that that their town's not the oldest town. I don't know if you ever heard of that town in Florida. I know I haven't.
I
Which
heard
one?
of
What's the name
Edenville
of?
before. Edenville. I heard of Edenville before.
Well,
Edenville, Florida.
I've never heard of Edenville, and if Edenville is older, it is older. Does Edenville still exist? I don't know because I've never heard of Edenville. But I can tell you this: Mound Bayou. I'm gonna give you a little bit more history about Mound Bayou, and this is not me knocking nobody. Don't get it twisted, because the people in Mound Bayou, Mississippi, was not in competition with black people in Florida, black people in New York, black people in the Bahamas. They weren't in competition with nobody. It was just something they were able to do, right? I remember when they broke the town. They broke the town for 100 years. Money that was saved from slave money, from the businesses they ran, from formerly enslaved Africans, from money they saved. These people, but the hospital shut down in 1983. Remember, the town was founded in 1875. The hospital was shut down. A hospital that was built by formerly ex-slaves stayed up that long. They kept renovated with ex-slave money. What happened was they got somebody come in and he fought, and he was able to talk people into saying, let's incorporate Mount Bayou and make it a city, a small town in Mississippi. And once they incorporated it, some festival or something they was having, some white guy came through, stepped in a pothole, and allegedly broke his ankle, and the state of Mississippi awarded him like $25 million. A town of 5,000 people from formerly ex-slaves had saved over $25 million. They did all the renovations on the hospital, all the renovations on everything was done from the guy who started it was named Isaiah T. Montgomery. And what's the guy name? Who Dr. Umar says his family? Frederick Douglass. Frederick
Yeah.
Douglass, if you read what Frederick Douglass said about Isaiah T. Montgomery, he couldn't stand Isaiah T. Montgomery because Isaiah T. Montgomery did not want to be around white people. He said we shouldn't, don't worry about their elections. We have the ability to take care of ourselves. This is their country. This is their election. So what we're going to do is build ourselves up. And once we build ourselves up, then we can get involved. In Frederick Douglass, Booker T. Washington talked about what a great man Isaiah T. Montgomery was. Frederick Douglass did everything in his power to ridicule Isaiah T. Montgomery and ridicule and talk negative about building Mound Bayou, Mississippi. So when I look at the things that our ancestors have done throughout time, and then I look at us in 2024, we are an embarrassment. Because you talked about the people from the Bahamas coming here. I can show you what people from Africa
Take a
came
shot.
here during the civil rights movement. You can see what things that and what are we doing today other than trying to fight each other when you see those people back then trying to work together and build something together.
Yeah, and this should be like an inspiration, even though, like, again, even in the beginning, it was like, yeah, okay, the Bahamians were snooty when they were meeting the the Georgians of the slaves from Georgia, but then again, it was they all were fighting white people at the end of the day, and They like, that's bullshit. You know what I'm saying? They eyes on the prize was pretty much working and living together, fighting the same enemy because they were both being targeted by the same enemy. Let me play this real quick. It's at the end of it, and I've got like 1 or 2 articles, and that'll be it. And then I guess we could just talk after that.
But I reiterate that some of the folks here, some of the blacks knew that this was going to happen. I interviewed a lady in Coconut Grove who was alive when it happened. And she said that night that she woke up her husband because everything outside was yellow. All the elements had changed color. And she had never seen anything like that before. So we know that this was a phenomenon that was associated with that hurricane.
All right, so ending it here. So from when I do chapter 2, we're gonna start with chapter 2 of this segment. We're gonna start with chapter 9 on Virginia Key Beach. That's very interesting. So I'm gonna do a chapter 2 on that. So I just wanted to share these 2 articles here. Did that one? Yeah. So right here, I found this to be a very interesting article. It's basically talking about the people of Miami, Miami's Bahamian roots of food, soul food, and it's like a fusion of Bahamian food and soul food and stuff like that. You see, the woman here, she got a little Haitian flag or whatever. It's a melting pot. I don't know where these FBA people come from. I don't know. Because if you know where you're growing up, like in Miami and New York and places where everything's like a melting pot, and you don't know everybody's just black until you have to do a deep dive and ask them, and everyone's the same, So here is what's this? The Mariah Brown house. It says built by Bahamian immigrants Mariah and Ernest Brown in the 1890s. The Mariah Brown house is one of the oldest in Little Bahamas section of Coconut Grove, Miami. There was something here that I wanted to read.
I grew up in a house, by the way.
Just like that, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Just like that. I want to read this quote right here. It says, my mom's side of the family is from Mississippi, right? Shermany Green tells me my dad's side of the family is from Georgia and the Bahamas. So when FBA's talking about this delineation, how do you delineate if we go on with the stupid narrative that a Caribbean and an African got nothing to do with each other, right? In this day and age, we're all the same people. If you go their stupid, silly narrative, right? You have people here in this country that are Caribbean and American. My family is a prime example of that. My family is a prime example. My family, like the women tend to marry American men, and the men will marry like other Caribbean people. So like my white side, like all the men marry Haitian women. You know what I'm saying?
Oh man, you are mixed, man. You are Panamanian, Haiti, Guyanese. Oh goodness, man. You are.
No, I'm 100% Guyanese. My wife, she's Jamaican, Panamanian.
Oh
right?
goodness. Oh goodness.
So her cousins and her aunts married Haitian women and Haitian men. Right? On my cousin's side, on my mother's side, my cousins, they married American men. My sister is married to an American guy. They've been together since like high school, right?
Okay.
Yeah, so I have a lot of Americans in my family. So when FBA says these things, I'm like,
it's madness.
I don't say anything crazy back because I'm like, I'll be talking about my own family. I can't do that. I'm talking about my own
and my
family.
kids Trini, and my kids, my 2 youngest kids have Trini roots.
Just all over the Caribbean, all over. It's madness.
And my grandson has his Haitian roots, on his mama's side. You know what I'm saying? So how would
The
I
correct.
sit here and talk about people from? I would be talking about my own family and hating my own
Talking about
family.
yourself. Yeah, the madness
Yeah.
is Tariq Nasheed, his sister married a Mexican.
Oh, that's
I
true,
think
right? I heard about that.
this is a fact. This is a fact. His wife, I think that his mom is a Jewish woman, but I think
Yeah,
that his dad is actually a Caribbean man too. So it's just madness. It's madness.
yeah. So
Thank you, Nick, for coming on and taking a shot, sister. Brother Bakari, he absolutely worships black women, and if you ever was to say anything never but negative about black women, he'll have our heads. So this is a safe space for you, sister. This is a completely safe space for you. You can say anything you want.
yeah, welcome, welcome. You got the floor. Nick. I don't know. I don't know if you're on mute.
Yeah, you're probably on mute. Look for the microphone icon and click it. Yeah, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead. I don't think you're on mute. I don't see you being on mute. I don't know. I can't hear. You guys hear? I don't hear anything. Let me.
She'll come on when she wants to, I guess.
She
I
gonna
don't
have
know.
to. She might have to step down and come back up.
All right, I'm gonna remove you, then just come back in. Maybe you have a bad connection or something. I'm gonna remove you. Just come back in. Yeah, I'm just gonna remove her in the backstage. I'll bring her back. We can't. You're not on mute. I don't know if you're on mute. If you're on mute, unmute yourself. I don't know.
Nick, let us know in the chat if you're on your computer or if you're on your phone, because that might be the difference as well. But while we wait for Nick, I just want to add too, and I've talked about this on my platform before, but my grandmother's father left the Bahamas, left Eleuthera, which is a particular island in Bahamas, came out here on the contract, and from what we understand, had a whole other family because she never saw him again, right? In fact, she never met him, right? He left when she was like a baby, and so there's a whole lineage of people somewhere here in the Carolinas who are really related to me as a Bahamian person. It's just crazy that, and then there's countless stories of the back and forth, the people who went down, the Americans who went down to Trinidad, Fifth Ward, the folks who came from Haiti here, and all that kind of stuff that was going on back in the day, to act like everyone else is nothing when it's clearly in the history, it's clearly in the blood here, is just ridiculous. But let's see if Nick is ready to go.
Hey Nick, you still can't hear us?
No, I told her to use another venue. Maybe, Nick, if you try from your phone, maybe you may be able to be heard, but your laptop is not working. So try from your phone. Maybe you might be able to.
Yeah.
You might be able to hear you. Yeah.
Yeah, because I see him clicking off and on, but we don't hear it. So, like, I'm gonna remove you, and then
this right quick.
Get out of it. Don't be in the backstage. Get out of the backstage and come in all over again. So I'm gonna remove you, but when I remove you, get out of the backstage and just come in all over again on a different device.
You probably got family in Carolina.
Bakari, I think you're talking to me, but your audio was cracking up just now.
Can you hear me?
Oh, wow.
So Bakari said that he dropped off. I think Bakari was asking me about if I have family in the Carolinas, which I assume I do. Yeah.
Yeah, my brother, my wife's brother, his ex-wife, she's from North Carolina. He met her in Massachusetts.
Crazy enough, my sister-in-law is from South Carolina. She's from Anderson, South Carolina. So all of us, we are embedded. We are embedded because we're so close, and these are our family members. So when you're speaking and saying when to delineate from Caribbean people, the African American who's hearing this nonsense and has a Caribbean wife or in-laws, they're gonna say, "What is he talking about?"
Yep.
So it's just not. It's just madness. It's madness, man.
Yeah, yeah. It's just stupid, man. And I try not to give it any life, but then again, it just catches on. Nick, you're on mute. Unmute yourself. See if we can hear you now.
Okay, so I joined you from my phone. Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can hear you now. Welcome,
Okay.
welcome, welcome.
Well, thank you for having me. I apologize for the technical difficulties. I normally don't do something like this, go onto someone's live. I don't even know how I found your channel, but um, I decided to go into my home office to actually have this conversation because my husband will probably barge in and be like, "Who are you talking to? What are you talking about?"
You were born in 76. I saw you in the chat that it said you were born in 76.
Yeah, I'm not that old, but much older than a lot of people that are taking part in the conversation. So I just
No,
feel
all
like
these
the
all these guys
conversation.
all these guys are older than you, Nick. Besides me,
Yeah.
all of them,
No,
every
no, no,
last
no,
one.
no. Well, how me and you the same age. I was born in 76, February.
Okay.
Yeah, I
Okay.
was born in 76 as well. So
Oh wow, we all the same age.
Okay.
I didn't know that.
I was born in
Yeah.
72.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, I wasn't born close to you. Y'all a bunch of old grandpas.
Listen here, young man.
Well, I just
But
think
yeah, go ahead, Nick.
I,
Go ahead. The floor is
I
yours.
I just think that the conversation that's being put out there in general is quite interesting. To be honest with you, I didn't even know what FB Foundational Black um, FBO
American.
or
FBA,
sorry,
Foundational Black Americans.
right? Because I've always called myself a Black American, and I didn't even know that that was like a term or acronym or anything. I just recently found out about it like maybe 2 or 3 weeks ago because my algorithm just normally doesn't provide me with those kinds of channels or those kind of recommendations because that's normally not what I get myself involved in terms of outside of work when I'm using my spare time on social media. So just this entire conversation, I think is an interesting one. You do hear anger from both sides. Even I, to myself, have been triggered by certain things, and I think people have to always keep in mind that each person's unique experience is going to shape their their um, their views, and that always has to come to the forefront. And I'm hoping that just Black people as a whole will find a common ground. I know that's a far stretch because I also have personal beliefs about the world and where the world is heading. And even though I would like to see peace happen, I'm not really sure if that's going to be attainable, or at least not in the capacity in which we would prefer for it to be. But again, it is a very, very, very interesting conversation. And so that's kind of my opening. And I have to go back to listen to some of the things that you presented earlier in the documentary, some of the historical information about the state of Florida. But one of the things that I did mention in the chat was specifically about a wholehearted denial of the fact that towns were actually wiped out in America. Like that happens, and it's not like one or two or three or something like that. It happened. It was okay to kill Black people, point blank. Period. It was okay to come and destroy any and everything that they built. And so and that's just what reality is. Now, if somebody decides to bring that up today, are they moaning and whining and complaining about what used to be and why aren't they moving forward? I mean, that could be a conversation that could be had, but people have to understand that Black people that were enslaved and were taken to the West, regardless of which country they landed on. The Blacks that landed in America landed in the belly of the beast. And I think I heard one of the brothers mentioning the beast earlier, and that's exactly what this place is. And so the Black people that were brought here, their experience is a very unique one because the land was so large, they were outnumbered, and whereas perhaps a smaller country where Black people were taken from an African nation and then brought over, Trinidad, Jamaica, whatever Caribbean country you want to name. Just in terms of size and just in terms of population and then just in terms of numbers, your experiences were a whole lot different. And so it is not a situation where compassion should have stopped in 1968 after the civil rights occurred. I think compassion can still be extended, and I think also anger should be dispelled. Anger from Black people. Black American people want to group us together, but it doesn't take much for me of us to get triggered and angry very quickly. It doesn't take much if we and that's towards each other and towards outsiders, towards anybody, and that's a heart issue. That's something that the Lord Himself has to deal with, but hopefully, just with the conversation, I'm hoping that a lot more mature spaces would be made available. I would love to see PBS get involved with things like this. I would love to see more of a national discourse, and not your typical politicians, not your typical people that you would drag out, but a more civilized and a more a conversation that doesn't have an agenda behind it, a truthful conversation.
I want to respond to that quickly if I can. First, let me say this: we do have conversations like this with people from the diaspora, not only on this channel, but we have conversations like this, Nick, on a bit of something called the Bit of Medicine podcast every week on Saturdays at 8 o'clock. We come together from different places, and we are freely able to give our opinions on the different issues of the day, dealing with, in particularly Black folks. And you are free to come and give your opinions as far as the happenings in terms of what is happening in the Black world and the Black diaspora all over the world. We have these kinds of discussions. But something that you said in the chat that was interesting, that I would really like you to really expand on. You said that West Indians, when you went to school, I guess you're from South Florida, when you went to school, that they would spew a lot of the venom they had in their minds. Yes. So I would really like for you to expand on that if you can.
Oh, if we weren't a Bama, if we didn't know any better. Oh, okay. We were either Bama, we were extremely country. Our music sucked. We had no culture whatsoever. Our food was terrible. Let's see what else. They didn't really talk about the violence, but it was just more of just stigmas. you know. So if you're hearing a stigma from a white person about black people, and then when you also hear those things from your own peers that look exactly like you, I mean, that's just what it was. But around the early 90s, there was a huge influx of people from up north, from New York, moving to Florida. I don't know if the housing prices were just phenomenal or something like that, but Florida as a whole already had a huge West Indian, particularly in
What,
South
I'm
Florida.
sorry.
You guys
I'm sorry to
are
cut you off.
Bahamian, so
I'm sorry to cut you off.
I'm,
What
I'm
part
sorry.
of Florida?
I'm from Central Florida.
Okay,
Central
because I
Florida,
have
but
family.
I went to Barry in Miami. So
Okay, because a part of Florida
you
I'm
know,
more familiar with is Fort Lauderdale, Dade County, Fort
okay,
Lauderdale,
and
that
I
area.
went to I went to school in my an area called Miami Springs for graduate school, or excuse me,
That's
for
not far. That's a
undergraduate.
little. That's just a little
Yeah,
further
it's
south
further
from
south.
me because I'm in Morrigate, Florida, like Morrigate,
Okay,
Lauderdale Lakes area.
okay. Now I have relatives that moved to Belglade, Florida from Georgia back in the 1952. And they were a part of the farm workers, muck farm. And so and so being in South Florida growing up was a norm for me, even though I grew up in Central Florida. And then again, I went to college, graduate or undergraduate in Miami. So I'm just a Florida girl as a whole, kind of similar to some of your circumstances where we've had family, you know, marry people from different islands or whatever. But by and large, you know, I'm a Black American person.
Now, the
Nick,
only reason
just
why I would say it's that well, okay, everything you told me was despicable. American food tastes amazing. The women are also amazing. The only
Oh,
thing
yo,
since
they
you
talk
say,
about how we cleaned our chicken. They say we didn't clean our chicken with lime and our food was
no, I hear
disgusting.
that. No,
We're
no, I
nah,
hear
that's
that.
building
crazy.
up
No,
I
I do
never
hear
communities
that.
heard that.
to the
No,
I
I
never
do
heard
hear
that.
that. I do hear that. I do hear that.
The only thing I would say in the '90s that was probably true was the
ground.
music, because in the '90s, because in the '90s, look, in the '90s, on what? Well, you didn't have Southern rappers. You know what I'm saying? That was not until like the late '90s, early 2000s. Then you had the only people you used to mess with is probably like what Outkast. The Outkast had like one song, and they're from Georgia. You know what I'm saying? During the '90s, you know what I'm saying? No one, if you even it doesn't even matter if you're from the Midwest or West Coast. West Coast started getting put on. The South was the last. The Midwest and the South was the last. So I kind of get them saying like, "Oh man, your
But see,
music sucks."
you have to understand.
Actually,
When
Kofi,
were
may I
you? Let me ask you something for the gentleman that just spoke. Were you born in America
No,
or were you
no.
born?
I was born. I was born in America.
Okay,
And
so
I have heard. First of all, let me clear some things up,
okay,
because you said that some of the West Indians who there's two different kinds of West Indians now. You have your West Indians who are coming from New York City from the north, coming to into the Florida area,
Like me.
or you have like Kofi, or you have the West Indians coming from the south who are coming from the actual countries themselves. So
exactly.
yeah, so I have to define who are you describing first and foremost. That's the first thing. The
This is
second thing
very
is
true.
Nick, let me finish and I'll let you go. Let me finish and I'll let you go. And then the next thing is I have heard that comment of these people don't clean their food properly, because I know, like my mom, they don't like to eat Kentucky Fried Chicken because they don't feel like the chicken is clean. They don't clean the guts out of the chicken and then put
Mhm.
lemon in it and clean it out properly before they fry it. So I understand that. I no, it does resonate me. It absolutely does. So I have to just make some. So I have to get some clarity in terms of who West Indians are you actually speaking about? Are you speaking from the Northerners coming down, or are you speaking from the Southern people from the Caribbean islands coming actually to Florida itself? I have to make that distinction clear.
I am so happy you did that. That is a very fair question because there is a true distinction. So remember, I had mentioned Belgrade, Florida, going to South Florida because I have family down there, and our population that were already like 30s because my family.
You're breaking up, Nick. You're breaking up, Nick.
I'm sorry, they moved down in the 50s. So I started to like Belgrade, South Florida in the early 80s, and you are correct. Different set of island people from the people that migrated in the 90s down to Florida, the New York West Indians. You're absolutely correct, sir. So that is true. A fair point. Two different attitudes.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I think, I mean, don't, my opinion, I mean, find out for yourself, but I wouldn't give too much because FBA is something that was created like 2, 3 years ago. Is not something that's factually based in history or actual sense, but it's pretty much an online hashtag movement. So basically, so when I say, I mean, now I'm saying FBI, I mean foundational Bahamian Americans, but before when I use the word FBA, this is something that's been going on for about 3, 4 years, and most of the people that use this term and wear it as a badge of honor are not the sharpest tools in the shed. Because when you actually have conversations like this after they stop calling you names and calling you Dusty and Coconut and all this other stuff, and you have an actual conversation, they're lacking a lot of just basic rudimentary information. Now, I'm not saying they're not Africans and Caribbeans that will also say vile things. The thing I don't like is the false equivalency is like, well, both of you guys are doing it. Like, no, like again, I used to be a fan of Tariq Nasheed before he started this. When he started this, that's when I just, I was like, no, I'll jump ship. That was it. So it's not coming from, well, I just, hate him just to hate him. It's for like 2 years or so. I'm listening to him on or just talk bad about Caribbeans and Africans, and Caribbeans and Africans didn't say anything for a long time. And then Twitter hits, and then he was taking up Twitter spaces. I think Twitter and his YouTube, which made it even spread even more. And then you had like Somalians, I think it was like Somalians in the beginning, right? Were hearing all these things, and you had some Africans from some Brit Africans in England that was there, and he was shutting down Twitter, just holding Twitter spaces, just talking bad about Africans and Caribbeans. And then the clapback happened, and then everyone, all the so-called FBA started hiding their hands, like, why are you saying this about us? You just don't like black people. You don't want to be considered black. And I'm having these conversations as of lately for the past year, and it's frustrating. And I'm like, no, that's not what happened. So people such as yourself, Nick, that's coming in is like, wow, where is all this coming from? This is where it's pretty much coming from. So what we're trying to do here, and the good brothers here, is trying to do some damage control on some, like saying, hey, look, this is the reality of it. We are all the same people. We were always here. You didn't do anything for me. What we did things for each other. You know what I'm saying? You didn't, that we're trying to set the record straight here, pretty much. So yeah, we may say some things that may get under your skin, but out of context, you may be like, oh wow, you guys are just hating. That's my position and
Well, no,
why.
I want to be, yeah, I haven't like I said, since I just heard of the acronym recently, and the gentleman that you just mentioned, I don't know any of his prior stuff. I think I may have seen a video 2 days ago from him about hip hop. Um,
Yeah.
and that's how I started. I was like, oh, what's going on? So, but yeah, I'm not too familiar with the background and with the history and what this movement is all about. I would prefer that it's more so of a conversation, and a conversation with everybody presenting historical data and not denying the historical data. Like allow information to present itself, um, and take in the information and be grateful for the information, and not look for an angle or look for information to just specifically prove a point. Because ultimately, at the end of the day, there will not be a unity amongst people of color until like little things like this can be overcome. I'm hopeful, but at the same time, I don't know if that's gonna really happen.
I'm
Hey,
hopeful
can I say?
because I'm glad. I'm real quick, Bakari. Then you go. I'm hopeful because I'm bumping into people who usually use this phrase are not smart, intelligent people that will be taken seriously in real life. So they have to stay online, and that's where they live. Moment real life starts, they just know where to exist. Go ahead, Bakari.
You know, first I want to say, Bawanda, you left my channel. I drew wrong for that. But anyway, uh, I'm gonna be honest with you. I talk about people that call themselves FBA. I'm gonna be honest with you. I go a little hard on them, and I'm an African American. But me personally, I very seldom. I don't use the term Black American at all because, and I understand some people don't separate Black from Africa. It's the same. But I also understand when these people that call themselves FBA and ADOS and Aborigine or whatever else they call themselves, they are saying it to completely separate themselves from other Black people. So
I
I don't
hope
use it,
so.
that's why I don't use it because of
Well,
them. I'm
that's
not saying it.
good. Well, here's
Yeah,
the thing, because I said in my heart when I was like 9 years old, I'm not gonna call myself an African American because I don't know which African country my family came from. So I always call myself a Black American, and now they hear that is um a trendy word, or I wouldn't. It's not like I made it up. I'm not trying to say that, but I just personally never call myself African American only because I haven't done any testing. I would like to do some, but then I've also heard some cons in regards to the outcome of the information. I'm like, I don't want to get my hopes up and still have and end up in a position where I still have more questions. I don't want to open up that wound because that wound, it for some people it doesn't affect them. They go throughout their life and they don't think about ancestry and where they come from. But for some people, it is a sore spot and it's a question in their mind. I would like to have those answers, but at the end of the day, I'm afraid that I won't get the full picture, and it's just going to to make things worse. So, but again, that was my reason for saying Black American. Again, I'm new to this conversation, so I didn't even know I could be affiliating myself with a group by saying something I've been saying since I was a kid. That's so interesting. I
and see,
literally always
let's
call
say
myself a Black American just on the strength of I don't know what country.
I got you, and I know, and I know other people that do that. So I don't hold it against nobody. So let me tell you, when I say they're crazy, and the reason I go at them, everybody know the Gullah Geechee from South Carolina, right? That's when I was asking Cole Cool. He said he got family in the Carolinas, right? So everybody know the Gullah Geechee in the Carolinas in Savannah, Georgia, right?
Yeah.
FBA and ADOS don't count them as being FBA and ADOS.
I saw that.
I know when others
Or
growing up.
rudimentary. He doesn't. What he's saying, he doesn't. They doesn't consider them as Black Americans. They're not Black Americans. They also don't consider people from Louisiana to be real Americans because you had during the Louisiana Purchase, you had a lot of Haitians going into Louisiana. So they want to say, well, no, they're not really Americans, as well as the
You
Gullah
know,
Geechee people.
and they
So
also
if you
have a
take
they
so hold
also
on,
have a
Brother Bakari, if you take out the Gullah Geechee, you basically saying your family in from South Carolina or North Carolina. That's what you basically saying.
no.
So
What I'm
you
saying
taking
is,
out North Carolina and South Carolina completely.
and Savannah, Georgia.
Oh, that's the. Oh, I didn't know that. I didn't know that they was trying to do that. Okay, all right.
Yeah, they don't claim none of them. And when you say Louisiana, this is the thing about it. Angola prison was one of the most famous prisons in the United States. Do y'all know why they named it Angola prison?
Because they got I don't know if they had people from Angola.
That's why. That's why. The guy they bought the land from knew where he bought the slave. They knew where the enslaved Africans came from. It was Angola. So they just named the prison Angola prison after Africa because everybody that was enslaved there came from Angola. You was absolutely right.
Okay.
That's why they named it Angola prison. But these people, and only thing they do is cause so much confusion, right? And I tell people, see, for me, I'm trying to start my movement is hold your damn money. That's what I
Yep.
want everybody to do. Hold your damn money because our strength is in our community, is where we live. And we should be owning the businesses. We should own the washaterias. We should own the corner stores, the gas stations. We should own the nail salons, the beauty supply stores. Should nobody be able to come in our community and just set up shop? Because as we look at TV and argue about open borders, I don't have to go to TV. And this is what I meant when I said they keep us talking about Alabama and Mississippi, and we can't see what's going on where we are. I don't have to look at Texas and Arizona and say the borders are open. All I have to do is go to inside of my black neighborhood, and I can see our borders have been open to everybody forever to come and get rich off us. So it's time for us to close borders. It's time for black men to step up and do what we're supposed to do: protect, respect, love, provide, and protect. Black women, we have to do what we have to do. And like the sister said, she's hoping for some unity. And that's what I'm shooting for. People say we're not going to get all of us. I beg the difference. We're going to get all of us. We're going to get all of us that want to be together. The ones that don't want to be together, they are not a part of all of us. And they are not, that's how
So
I
glad
see it
that.
anyway.
I don't want to. I don't want to run ahead.
Guys,
So
hold on, guys, hold on, real quick. I really want this to be digestible. We're already at the 3 hour mark. You know
yes,
me, I could do this forever. So I want
yes,
people to see the video and be able to okay, I'll give it some time, but if we do this, we do it in 5 hours. So,
yes,
um, I really don't want to close because I'm enjoying myself, but just for that, I kind of want to keep it short. So if I guess start from Bakar from Buana
no,
on down,
yeah, yes. So, and
and
I'll be quick.
about 3 minutes, give or take.
Yes. So I want to just make it digestible for my sister Nick because I am considering her. You all brothers are, you all a little seasoned with this kind of commentary. So you all know where all the bodies are buried, and I don't want to run ahead of Nick since she is new to this kind of conversation. So the only thing I would suggest to the sister is if she is feeling she is only referring to herself as a black American because she doesn't understand specifically where she is located. The first thing I would only ask her is, does she believe in science and DNA, things of that nature? And if she does, you just go get a DNA test. They have DNA testing in terms of where you properly are from. Most black people in the West Indies and Americas would have come from Western and Central Africa. That is at least positioning you geographically in terms of which part of Africa you're from. So when you get a DNA sampling of your blood, it will really siphon out in terms of where your blood is because you are probably a mixture of different West Africans and Central African people. So if you are questioning which part of Africa you are from, you will get a better understanding in terms of even percentages of where you would be properly placed in the whole idea of the black world and the African world. I think that doing a DNA test would be a good start. That'd be a good start. Don't get caught up to these kinds of conversations as yet. I would invite you though, sister. I would invite you though to really join us and have a conversation with us. We meet every Saturday nights at 8 a.m. on the Better Medicine podcast on YouTube. This also is a channel. Brother Bakari, he venerates black women. He loves black women. So be a part of our collective and possibly contribute if you can in terms of what you are hearing and what you could contribute. You know, we are a network of people. We don't dismiss black folks. We love black folks. We try our best to educate black folks where we are in the world. And I would just implore you to just give us a chance and give us a try and see where you fit in. See where you fit in the whole discussion. No one will be dismissive of you. No one will disparage you. No one will be mean spirited towards you. I assure you of that. Brother Bakari will make sure that'll happen. So just give us a try, and I will just leave it there. Just give us a try.
All right. Thank you for that. Koku, you still there?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I'll make it
All right.
very brief. First, I want to thank Nick for coming up. Nick is not sure how she even found your channel, Kofi, but I'm glad she did. I echo the sentiments of Buana as far as giving us a try. Kofi the Black Critic channel is now a part of the KWAZ radio family of
Amen.
podcasts. And so that includes myself, Kofi, Brother Bakari, the Forecast, who's on right now. I plan to go and check him out next, the Forecast Radio, the Matron, the Pro Black Perspective, and a few others who aren't quite active right now, the Harsh Valley Podcast. So there's a slew of us, different viewpoints, but African-centered, all of us are. And we do things a little bit differently. So there's a wide variety of things you could kind of connect with, right, if you give us a chance. I want to say thanks to Kofi for doing this show today. As many of you might know now, today is July 10th, is Bahamian Independence Day. I am a Bahamian from Nassau. Buana is Bahamian as well, from Nassau as well. And he's actually in the country right now. So I appreciate that we can have this discussion. We can shed light on this on this concept of Pan-Africanism, in the sense that there were people from a different place who came to the States and helped build it too. And those people would be Bahamians and other different nationalities from the black world. So I do appreciate the time that we spent here talking about it. I understand Kofi wants to cut it short. I do understand making it digestible. So I will land my plane there. Again, I want to thank Kofi for doing this. Like Bakari said in the chat, hashtag Team Black, hashtag hold your damn money. And I would add hashtag KWAZ radio. All right.
Thank you. I appreciate that, Koku.
It's on me.
Yeah.
Okay, look, man. Thank you for letting me speak on your channel, Kofi. Man, this is good. We're gonna have to get together and do a panel on my channel, all of us. I got a couple things I want to talk about, but you know what I'm trying to drill in. I'm trying to drill in, hold your damn money. Let's take control of the economy in our community. And it's going to take some unity. It's going to take us coming together and understanding. I want us to do a meet and greet. I want to schedule a meet and greet. If anybody's interested, we should try to set one up so we can really start doing things. It was great to meet Nikki tonight. It was wonderful that great that she came on the panel. And we got to hear out. And I want to say, I don't want you to think that I was saying something was wrong because you said Black American. I was saying why I got away from it. I understand when people everybody that say Black American don't mean it like people like the FBAs and the ADOS. I know everybody who said don't mean it like them. I'm a Black American. I'm better than everybody else. Like I heard one of them say, it's been proven that the Black American is the greatest black race. Like so it's more than one black race now when they speak. But anyway, that's why I don't use it. I know that's not how you meant it, Nick. So I don't want you to think that I was trying to come down on you or anything. But on that note, I'm gonna go ahead and yell out one more time. Hashtag Team Black.
Hey, brother Bakari, wait a minute. No, you talking about meet and greet. Nobody wants to eat raccoon or possum. So You don't want to meet and greet with you.
I want to meet and greet. I'm gonna tell you why I want to meet and greet at. I want to meet and greet in Charleston, South Carolina. I've spoken with the Queen before over email. If we really talking about nation building, the Gullah Geechee, everybody should be reaching out and see if we can set up a meet and greet down there with them and with the Queen, Queen Cat, because they have their own nation. She's actually their representation in the United Nations. And me and my daughter went there a year before last to visit, and we talked to met a lot of Gullah Geechee people, and they really want other African Americans to come and be involved in what they're doing and become part of the nation.
Oh, okay. Okay.
And yes, like a lot of people don't even know that they have their own representation that she's their representation in the United Nations. A lot of people don't know that.
Yeah, I didn't know that. I did not know that.
So I said every opportunity. So that's why they are called the Gullah Geechee Nation, because they have their own nation, but their land is being taken. And when I'm telling you now, if you you just going to and you driving, put in your GPS where you going, and if you look up the most Gullah islands, they're gonna say James Island. They are literally taking our people identity. There was not one black person on James Island. Then we went to the other island. There was not one black, but all these, I'm like, man, I just literally asked the one white dude. I said, I thought this was this is the Gullah Island. So where the Gullah people? Where the Geechee people? Where are they? They literally took our people land
Mm.
and have made them vacation sites.
Well,
That's
sounds
what they
like
have
they
done.
trying to do Gaza. That's like they're trying to do a whole Gaza thing over there, move the people, and to make it vacation spots.
And that's what they have done in Charleston. So to go see the Gullah, they had another island, probably about 20, 30 miles away. And the day we were going to take the trip, the guy who was going to take us on the trip, he had to leave town. So man, I just went to North Charleston, South Carolina. And like I say, I stand out in public and talk. This what I did down there. I didn't make a difference in the front of the restaurant or whatever. Me and my daughter, like, Daddy, you talk a lot. Yes, I do. That's how I meet a lot of people. So I was just in there talking, just getting up, talking to everybody and talking loud so everybody could hear me. But that's how I met. People. So
Right.
I'm just saying, but on that note, man, thank you for letting me speak, Nick. It was nice meeting you, Bawana, Cool, man. You know, we gonna be on the panel together on Saturday, but I want to schedule a panel of some things for us to talk about on my channel. I want Kofi to come through. I'm glad I met Kofi. Kofi seemed like a good brother from Guyana. So
I
on
first
that, I'm
met
gonna
you
get a mic.
first met you on Brandon's channel, and you were even cool then. You were the only level-headed person out of all the people I was talking. I was like, God damn, like what's going on here? Yeah, so I think you were on Mawale's channel too one time.
Yes, I've been on Mawale channel a couple times.
Yeah. So, all right. Again, thank you all. What I would say to Nick when it comes to the DNA thing, I did Ancestry.com. I had the same type of reservations that you did, but when I did, it's no big deal. You take a swab of saliva, you put it in a tube, you send it away. You don't have to give your real name or anything like that. And this is how I know that it worked. It's science, right? Science is something not necessary for belief, right? I did it, and when you do it, it matches you up. Who's your first cousin, second cousin, yada 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 yada. There's like a little chat site on Ancestry.com. I'm talking to someone that's supposed to be my second cousin, and we're just talking, corresponding back and forth, and all of a sudden he didn't message me back. I'm like, okay, the person's messaging me back. Like, why he didn't message me back right away? All of a sudden, my phone starts ringing. My mother picks up the phone, and my mother's like, "What are you doing?" I'm like, "I'm just on the computer." She's like, "Are you on like talking to somebody?" I'm like, "Kinda." She was like, "Okay, I think you're talking to Owen." I'm like, "Really?" I was like, "Yeah." I was like, "Why would you know that?" She said he's talking to somebody who did the ancestry DNA, and I have a younger brother. So he thought he was talking to my younger brother. I was like, "No, it's me. I'm talking to him." So that's my mother's aunt's son, which would make him my second cousin. So again, same thing. He didn't give his name. It didn't say his last name. I didn't put my last name there. It works. It works. And my cousin joined it too. Same thing. It just linked me up with my first cousin. So it is something very interesting to do with me when I took mine. My DNA, I'm pretty much 98% African and 1% Native American, 1% Irish, and everything else is Cameroonian, Ghanaian. It's a mixture. So I do encourage you and everyone to do that. Again, thank you to the panel. I really appreciate you guys coming through and contributing. Peace out to all of you, Buana, Kuku, Bakari, Nick, Ditso, Black Beauty, everybody. If I forget your name, I didn't mean to, but pretty much thank you all for coming through. Please remember, I'm kind of glad that this is being reached out to like people like Nick and stuff like that. Like, I don't know how you found your channel. So I guess some good is coming of this. You know, we're casting a wide net. And don't remember the Bit of Medicine podcast. Remember, that's every Saturday at 8 from 8 to 11. Everyone go on to that as well. And once again, everybody, I appreciate it. I'm gonna do part 2. That'll be soon. I'll let you guys know when I'm gonna do part 2. So I'm gonna finish all the rest of this documentary, and until then, everyone take care of each other. It's hot out there. Stay cool. Black power. Good night.